Howdy, folks. You found your way to fanfic adventure. Today's adventure is called What If Naruto Ate 6 Mythical Zoan Devil Fruits and Became the New King of Pirates with Nami and Robin. Love our content. Smash that like button and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment telling us what you think. Alright, story time. Chapter 1, Stranger Tides. The sea tasted of salt and possibility. Naruto Uzumaki coughed violently as seawater burned through his sinuses, his body half submerged in foam-capped waves that threatened to drag him under. His fingers clawed desperately at wet sand as consciousness returned in painful bursts of sensation. What the hell, he gasped, dragging himself further up the shore. His orange and black jacket hung heavy with seawater, and his headband, symbol of everything he had fought for, threatened to slip from his forehead. Memories cascaded through him like lightning strikes. Madara. The 10 Tails. The final sacrifice to save his friends as the dimensional rift threatened to consume the ninja world. He remembered throwing himself into the void, Kurama's chakra wrapped protectively around him as reality itself had torn apart. "Kid, you alive in there?" Kurama's voice resonated in his mind, familiar yet strained. "Barely," Naruto muttered, rolling onto his back as the tropical sun beat down. "Where are we? Some weird reverse summoning gone wrong?" "I don't think we're in the elemental nations anymore," the fox replied. "This chakra, it feels wrong. Different. Like it's singing." Naruto forced himself to sit up, taking in his surroundings for the first time. The beach stretched in both directions, bordered by lush jungle unlike anything in the land of fire. The horizon revealed nothing but endless blue ocean. "Genjutsu?" he asked, bringing his hands together to form a seal. "Release." Nothing changed. "Not genjutsu," Kurama confirmed. "Whatever happened when you threw us into that dimensional tear, we've landed somewhere else entirely." Naruto staggered to his feet, fighting dizziness. His chakra felt strange, still accessible but somehow resonating differently with the world around him. It was like playing a familiar instrument that had been retuned to an alien scale. "We need to find people," he decided. "Figure out where we are, then find a way home." The jungle provided fruit that looked strange but tasted sweet. His survival training, hard-won through years of missions, served him well as he foraged and established his bearings. The afternoon sun position to the west gave him direction as he moved inland, away from the beach. Hours of hiking through dense vegetation led him to a ridge overlooking a small village nestled in a protected cove. The architecture was unlike anything from the ninja world, wooden buildings with thatched roofs clustered around a central harbor where peculiar ships were docked. "People." Naruto grinned, relief washing through him. "Maybe they can." His words died as a distant explosion rocked the harbor. Black smoke billowed from one of the larger buildings as figures poured from the ships, armed men moving with violent purpose. "Pirates," came a distant scream that somehow carried to his position. "Looks like trouble finds you no matter what world we're in," Kurama observed dryly. Naruto's eyes narrowed. "Some things don't change." He didn't hesitate. Years of ninja training took over as he leapt from the ridge, channeling chakra to his feet to control his descent. The sensation was subtly different, his chakra seeming to spark and dance against this world's energies, but his body responded as it always had. Below, chaos reigned. Men with cutlasses and flintlock pistols, weapons Naruto had never seen before, terrorized villagers, driving them from homes and shops as they looted with brutal efficiency. Their captain, a mountain of a man with a braided beard and a coat of crimson, directed the assault from the village square. "Take everything that isn't nailed down," the captain roared. "And if it is, take the nails too." A young woman stumbled as she fled, a small child clutched to her chest. A pirate with rotting teeth raised his blade above her, grinning. He never saw what hit him. Naruto's kick connected with devastating force, sending the pirate crashing through a nearby wall. The woman stared up at him, wide-eyed at his sudden appearance. "Get to safety," Naruto instructed, helping her to her feet. "I'll handle these guys." "Who are you?" she gasped, clutching her child tighter. Naruto gave her his trademark grin. "Just a ninja passing through." The nearby pirates turned at the commotion, weapons raised as they registered the strange newcomer. Naruto stood calmly in the center of the road, assessing his opponents, 15 visible, probably more spread throughout the village. "What's this?" the captain called, shoving his way forward. "Some kind of village hero?" "I'm not from this village," Naruto replied, rolling his shoulders. "But I don't like bullies, no matter what world I'm in." The captain's eyes narrowed beneath bushy brows. "Brave words for a dead man." He gestured sharply. "Got him, boys." 3 pirates charged, blades glinting in the afternoon sun. Naruto didn't move until the last possible moment, then, he wasn't there anymore. A shadow clone appeared behind each attacker, delivering synchronized blows that dropped them instantly. The real Naruto remained where he stood, expression unchanged. Stunned silence fell over the pirate crew. "Devil fruit user," someone finally shouted. "I don't know what that is," Naruto said, creating 4 more shadow clones that positioned themselves strategically around him, "but if it means I can do this." The clones launched into action, each engaging multiple pirates with coordinated taijutsu that sent weapons flying and bodies crumpling. Naruto moved with lethal grace, his combat style bewildering opponents accustomed to brute force encounters. The captain's face contorted with rage. "Enough," he bellowed, drawing an ornate pistol. "Let's see if your fruit power stops bullets." The shot cracked across the village square. Naruto, sensing danger without understanding the weapon, moved instinctively. The bullet grazed his shoulder, drawing a hiss of pain as he realized these strange weapons moved faster than Senbon. "Careful, kid," Kurama warned. "Our chakra is acting differently here. I can still heal you, but it's taking more effort." "Noted," Naruto muttered, pressing a hand to his bleeding shoulder. Louder, he addressed the captain, "Is that all you've got?" The captain's response was to draw a second pistol, this one larger than the first. "Actually, no. This one's loaded with seastone shot. Even if you are a Logia type, this'll put you down." Before he could fire, Naruto summoned a Rasengan, the swirling ball of chakra spinning between his palms. The familiar technique formed differently here, threads of energy spiraling with unusual colors as if responding to the world's unique forces. "What the hell is that?" one pirate gasped. Naruto didn't answer. He charged, crossing the distance to the captain in a blur of motion. The Rasengan connected with the man's chest, the compressed chakra expanding on impact and launching the massive figure back through 3 buildings before he came to rest, unconscious and embedded in rubble. The remaining pirates stared in horror, then broke into chaotic retreat. Some fled toward their ships, others into the jungle. Within minutes, the village square stood empty except for Naruto and the cautiously emerging villagers. An elderly man approached, leaning heavily on a gnarled walking stick. "Young man," he said, voice quavering with emotion, "you have saved our village from the Red Tide pirates. We are in your debt." Naruto rubbed the back of his head, an unconscious gesture of embarrassment. "It was nothing, really. I couldn't just watch people get hurt." "Nothing?" The old man laughed. "You must not be from the Grand Line if you call defeating a pirate crew with a 5 million berry bounty nothing." "Grand Line?" Naruto repeated. "Is that where we are?" The old man's bushy eyebrows rose. "You truly don't know?" "The Grand Line is the most dangerous sea in the world, young man. We're on Palmyra Island, about 2 weeks' sail from Logue Town." None of the names meant anything to Naruto, confirming what he already suspected. This wasn't his world. "I'm kind of lost," he admitted. The village elder nodded sagely. "Many find themselves adrift on these waters. Come, let us tend to your wound and offer you proper hospitality. It's the least we can do." The village healer's hut smelled of herbs both familiar and strange. Naruto sat patiently as an older woman with nimble fingers cleaned and bandaged his shoulder wound, though he knew Kurama's chakra was already accelerating the healing process. "You have the constitution of a sea king," she remarked, tying off the bandage. "Most men would be laid up with a bullet wound like this." Naruto smiled politely, filing away another strange term to ask about later. The past hours had been a crash course in this world's terminology: Grand Line, berries, apparently the currency, devil fruits, marines, world government. Each answer spawned 10 new questions. The village elder, who had introduced himself as Mayor Tully, sat across the small room nursing a cup of something strong-smelling. Several other village leaders had joined them, eager to both thank their savior and assess the strange visitor. "So you truly remember nothing before washing up on our shore?" Tully asked. Naruto hesitated. He'd decided a partial truth was safer than trying to explain dimensional travel and ninja villages. "I remember my name, Naruto Uzumaki. And I remember fighting, but everything else is hazy." He touched his headband, the metal plate with its stylized leaf symbol the only physical proof of his home. "Memory loss isn't uncommon after trauma at sea," the healer offered. "It may return in time. Or it may not," added a broad-shouldered man who'd introduced himself as the village blacksmith. "Either way, you've got remarkable fighting abilities. Those powers of yours, they're not like any devil fruit I've heard of." "About that," Naruto said, seizing the opportunity. "Everyone keeps mentioning these devil fruits. What exactly are they?" The room fell silent as the villagers exchanged glances. "You truly don't know?" asked Tully. "Devil fruits are mystical fruits that grant powers to those who eat them. The oceans are filled with tales of fruit users, men who turn to fire, control ice, transform into beasts. But the sea takes what it gives: eat a devil fruit and you lose the ability to swim forever. The ocean itself rejects you." Naruto considered this. "And you thought I'd eaten one of these fruits?" "What else explains your abilities?" the blacksmith asked. "Those doubles you created, that spinning energy attack. If not a devil fruit, then what?" "Don't reveal too much," Kurama advised. "We don't know who we can trust yet." "I'm not sure," Naruto replied carefully. "But I know I can swim. Or at least, I could before washing up here." Mayor Tully stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Most curious." Perhaps, a commotion outside interrupted him. Moments later, a young boy burst through the door, eyes wide with excitement. "Mayor! Visitors in the harbor. A marine research vessel." The news sent a ripple of reactions through the room, relief from some, apprehension from others. "Marines?" Naruto asked. "The world government's military force," Tully explained, rising. "They patrol these waters, ostensibly keeping the peace. Their arrival now is either fortunate timing or suspicious coincidence. They're asking about the pirate attack," the boy continued breathlessly. "And they have a researcher with them, says they detected strange energy readings from our island." All eyes turned to Naruto. "This could be trouble," Kurama growled. "I should go," Naruto said, standing abruptly. Tully placed a weathered hand on his arm. "Wait. If these marines connect you to the energy they detected, they won't stop hunting you. The world government is persistent about things they don't understand. What do you suggest?" The elder's eyes twinkled. "A change of appearance, perhaps. And a quiet departure while I entertain our marine visitors with tales of a mysterious drifter who continued inland." Naruto grinned. "I like how you think, old man." Within the hour, Naruto had exchanged his distinctive orange and black outfit for local clothing, loose-fitting trousers, a simple white shirt, and a blue vest. His headband, too precious to abandon, was wrapped around his wrist instead of his forehead. A wide-brimmed hat completed the transformation. "The trading post on the north side of the island might be your best bet," the blacksmith advised, pressing a small pouch of berries into his hand. "Consider it payment for saving our village. It's not much, but it should get you passage on a merchant vessel. There's something else you should take," Tully said, returning from his home with a small wooden box. We've kept this hidden for years, too dangerous to sell, too valuable to destroy. The box opened to reveal a strange fruit, swirled with unnatural patterns and colors. Even looking at it, Naruto felt an odd resonance with his chakra. A devil fruit, he guessed. Tully nodded gravely. Found it washed up after a storm 5 years ago. According to a merchant who passed through, it's a paramecia type, grants the user control over wind currents. Worthless here where we need to fish, but for someone already capable like yourself. I appreciate the offer, Naruto said, but I'm not sure I want to give up swimming. Actually, Kurama interjected, I'm curious what would happen. Our chakra network is different from the people of this world. The fruit's power might interact differently with us. It's your choice, Tully said. But if the Marines are tracking unusual energy, they might be tracking this fruit as well. Better in your hands than theirs, perhaps. Naruto hesitated, then accepted the box. Thank you. For everything. As the sun began to set, Naruto slipped away from the village, following a narrow path that wound through the jungle toward the northern coast. Behind him, he could see white uniformed figures moving through the village, the Marines, no doubt questioning everyone about the defeated pirates and the mysterious energy readings. They look organized, Kurama noted. Military. Like ANBU but without the subtlety. Yeah, Naruto agreed. I think we're better off keeping our distance until we understand this world better. He continued through the darkening jungle, the weight of the devil fruit box a constant reminder of the strange new reality he'd been thrust into. Whatever power it contained, whatever challenges this world presented, he would face them as he always had, head-on and without retreat. That was his ninja way, no matter what world he found himself in. The northern trading post of Palmyra Island barely deserved the name. A handful of ramshackle buildings clustered around a weather-beaten dock, illuminated by sputtering oil lamps that cast more shadows than light. The few ships moored there looked little better than the pirate vessels Naruto had encountered earlier, patched hulls and stained sails suggesting hard voyages and harder captains. Naruto approached cautiously, senses alert for danger. The few people visible moved with the wariness of those accustomed to trouble, eyes tracking his approach without appearing to do so. A tavern dominated the small settlement, raucous laughter and the clink of glasses spilling from its open windows. Naruto headed there first, reasoning that information flowed most freely where alcohol did the same. The conversation inside died briefly as he entered, a dozen weather-beaten faces turning to assess the newcomer before resuming their discussions. Naruto made his way to the bar, where a heavy-set woman with arms like tree trunks was pouring drinks with practiced efficiency. "What'll it be?" she asked, not looking up from her work. "Information, if you're selling," Naruto replied. "And whatever passes for decent food here." That earned him a quick glance. "Information costs more than food, stranger. But we've got fish stew that won't kill you for 3 berries, and my ear for whatever's in your pocket." Naruto placed 10 berries on the counter. "The stew and your advice on finding passage off this island. Preferably on a ship the Marines don't pay much attention to." The barkeep scooped up the coins and slid a bowl of steaming stew in front of him. "Running from the law already? You don't look like much of a pirate." "I'm not," Naruto said, tasting the stew, surprisingly good despite its appearance. "Just trying to keep a low profile. Aren't we all?" She snorted, leaning closer. "See the man in the corner? Captain of the Merryweather. Runs cargo to Logue Town, sometimes beyond. Not too particular about passengers if they can pay, or work." She paused, eyeing him. "Though word is the Marines are extra interested in this island today. Something about energy readings and a pirate crew that got thrashed by a single fighter." Naruto kept his expression neutral. "Sounds like an interesting story. Doesn't it just?" Her eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" Before he could answer, the tavern door crashed open. A woman with bright orange hair stumbled in, breathing hard as if she'd been running. She wore a tight-fitting top that left little to the imagination and carried what looked like a section staff strapped to her thigh. "Hide me," she gasped to no one in particular. "Bounty hunters, right behind me." The tavern patrons exchanged glances, but no one moved to help. The woman's desperate gaze swept the room, landing on Naruto. Something, calculation, perhaps, flickered behind her panic. "You," she exclaimed, rushing to his side. "Thank goodness. I've been looking everywhere for you." Naruto raised an eyebrow as she pressed against him, her hand slipping inside his vest with surprising familiarity. He felt her fingers brush against the devil fruit box hidden there. "She's a thief," Kurama warned unnecessarily. "And she's good at it." In one smooth motion, Naruto caught her wrist, gently but firmly removing her hand from his vest. "I think you've mistaken me for someone else," he said quietly, meeting her startled brown eyes. For an instant, genuine surprise replaced her act. Then her expression shifted to one of calculated charm. "Don't be silly," she said, loud enough for others to hear. "It's me, your dear sister Nami. You promised to protect me, remember?" Before Naruto could respond, the door burst open again. 3 men entered, weapons drawn, a mix of swords and those strange firearms that seemed common in this world. "There she is," the leader snarled, a tall man with a scar bisecting his face. "Nami the cat burglar. Worth 20 million berries to the right buyer." The woman, Nami, pressed closer to Naruto. "Please," she whispered, and this time the fear in her voice sounded genuine. "They'll kill me." Naruto sighed. He'd been in this world less than a day, and already he was getting pulled into someone else's fight. Some things really didn't change. "Gentlemen," he said, rising slowly. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," Scarface replied, leveling his pistol. "That woman is coming with us. The only question is whether you're joining her, or if you're smart enough to stand aside." The tavern had gone silent, patrons sliding away from the confrontation. The barkeep had disappeared below the counter, presumably reaching for a weapon of her own. "I'm not feeling particularly smart today," Naruto said with a shrug. "And I'd hate to see a lady mistreated, even one who just tried to rob me." Nami had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "Your funeral," Scarface growled, and pulled the trigger. Naruto moved with preternatural speed, snatching a metal serving tray from the bar and deflecting the bullet in a shower of sparks. The bounty hunter stared in disbelief as he set the dented tray down calmly. "My turn," he said. What followed was brief and decisive. Naruto didn't even need shadow clones or Rasengan, just taijutsu, applied with precision against opponents who, while dangerous to normal people, were hopelessly outclassed by a trained shinobi. In less than 30 seconds, all 3 bounty hunters lay unconscious on the tavern floor. Silence reigned. Then, from the corner, a low whistle. Now that, said the man the barkeep had identified as the Merryweather's captain, was something worth seeing. He stood, approaching Naruto with newfound interest. "You looking for work, boy? I could use someone with your talents." "I'm looking for passage," Naruto confirmed. "But I choose my own jobs." The captain grinned, revealing gold-capped teeth. "Fair enough. We sail with the morning tide. 100 berries gets you to Logtown, assuming you help keep trouble like this." He nudged one of the unconscious bounty hunters with his boot, "off my ship." 50, Naruto countered. "And I bring my sister." Nami's eyes widened at being included in his plans. The captain laughed. 75 for the pair of you, and that's robbery on my part, considering the girl's got a price on her head." "Done," Naruto said, extending his hand. As they shook on it, the tavern door opened once more. This time, a young marine officer entered, flanked by 2 sailors. His uniform was pristine white and gold, his posture rigidly correct. "By order of Vice Admiral Maelstrom," he announced, "this settlement is now under temporary marine jurisdiction." We're conducting an investigation into unusual energy readings and request full cooperation from all citizens and visitors. His gaze swept the room, pausing briefly on the unconscious bounty hunters before settling on Naruto and Nami. "You there," he said sharply. "I don't recognize you." "Papers, please." Nami tensed beside Naruto, her hand dropping to the section staff at her thigh. The captain of the Merryweather had gone very still, his expression carefully neutral. "More trouble," Kurama observed. "But this might be useful. We need to learn more about these Marines and their technology if they can track your chakra." Naruto stepped forward, hands spread in a gesture of openness. "Sorry, but I lost everything when my ship went down south of the island. I'm just a traveler looking for work." The Marine officer frowned. "And the unconscious men?" "Bounty hunters," Nami supplied, stepping up beside Naruto. "They attacked me, and my brother defended me." "Your brother?" The officer's eyes narrowed as he looked between them, Naruto with his bright blonde hair and whisker-marked cheeks, Nami with her orange hair and completely different features. "Adopted," they said in unison. The officer clearly didn't believe them but seemed to decide it wasn't worth pursuing. "Our sensors detected a powerful energy signature in this vicinity. Have any of you observed unusual phenomena? Lights in the sky, perhaps, or strange sounds?" The tavern remained silent. Even those who might normally cooperate with authorities seemed unwilling to do so under the watchful eyes of the Merryweather's captain. "Very well," the officer said stiffly. "Be advised that we've established checkpoints around the island. No one leaves without proper identification and clearance." He fixed Naruto with a final, suspicious look before departing with his men. "Well, that complicates things," the captain muttered once they'd gone. "Looks like we'll be having a midnight departure, for anyone still interested in passage." He glanced meaningfully at Naruto. "We'll be there," Naruto assured him. As the tavern slowly returned to its previous atmosphere, Nami pulled Naruto aside. "Why?" she demanded in a fierce whisper. "Why help me after I tried to rob you? And don't give me some line about rescuing damsels in distress." Naruto shrugged. "You needed help. And I need information about this world, places, people, customs. You seem like someone who knows how to survive, which makes you valuable. So I'm a guide now?" She raised an eyebrow. "If you want to be. Or you can find your own way off this island past those marine checkpoints." He smiled slightly. "Your choice." Nami studied him for a long moment, something calculating yet curious in her gaze. "You're strange," she finally declared. "But I've worked with stranger. Just know that if you cross me, I won't hesitate to save the threats," Naruto interrupted gently. "I'm not your enemy, Nami. I'm just trying to find my place in a world that suddenly makes no sense to me." Something in his tone must have convinced her, because her expression softened fractionally. "Fine," she said. "Partners, then." "Temporarily." She extended her hand. Naruto took it, feeling the calluses of someone accustomed to hard work despite her delicate appearance. "Partners." The hours before midnight passed in tense preparation. Naruto and Nami secured supplies from the few merchants still open, using the berries the villagers had given him. Nami proved to be a ruthless negotiator, squeezing value from every transaction in ways that impressed even Naruto, who had grown up haggling in Konoha's markets. "You're good at this," he commented as they left a shopkeeper looking shell-shocked after selling them navigation tools at barely above cost. Nami tossed her hair. "Money is serious business. I never pay full price for anything." "Is that why you're a thief?" Her expression hardened. "I have my reasons. And I don't steal from people who can't afford it." Naruto recognized the defensive tone, he'd heard it enough in his own voice growing up. Whatever drove Nami to theft was personal and, he suspected, painful. "I wasn't judging," he said. "We all do what we need to survive." She gave him a curious look. You don't seem like someone who's had to struggle much. Those moves back at the tavern, you're trained professionally. Let's just say I've had an interesting life, Naruto replied evasively. Tell me more about these Marines. Why are they so interested in energy readings? Nami's expression turned thoughtful as they walked toward the docks, keeping to shadows when possible. The world government controls most of the known world through the Marines, she explained. They're obsessed with maintaining their power, which means controlling anything that could challenge it, particularly devil fruits and ancient weapons. Ancient weapons? Supposedly, weapons from the Void Century, a 100-year period the world government erased from history. They're said to be powerful enough to destroy entire islands. She glanced at him. Energy readings usually mean devil fruit activity or something worse. If they're setting up checkpoints, they're taking it seriously. Naruto absorbed this, thinking of the fruit box still hidden in his vest. And these devil fruits, they're rare. Incredibly. Some people spend lifetimes searching for just one. Nami's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Why the interest? Do you have one? Before Naruto could answer, a marine patrol rounded the corner ahead of them. Two uniformed men carrying lanterns, moving methodically through the settlement. Nami reacted instantly, pulling Naruto into a narrow alley. This way, she whispered, navigating the maze-like back routes of the trading post with the confidence of someone used to avoiding authorities. They emerged near the docks, where the Merryweather sat dark and seemingly deserted. Only when they approached did Naruto detect the subtle signs of preparation, slight movements in the rigging, the smell of heated engine oil. A figure detached itself from the shadows near the gangplank. Password, came a gruff whisper. We didn't set a password, Naruto replied honestly. A chuckle. Good answer. The captain doesn't trust people who make things up. Come aboard, but quietly. We're slipping out under blackout conditions. The deck of the Merryweather was organized chaos as the crew made ready to depart without lights or unnecessary sound. Naruto and Nami were shown to a small cabin below decks, little more than a closet with hammocks, and instructed to stay out of the way until they cleared the island's waters. Not exactly luxury accommodations, Nami muttered, testing a hammock strength dubiously. Better than a marine holding cell, Naruto pointed out, settling into the other hammock with the ease of someone used to improvised sleeping arrangements. The ship creaked as it got underway, sails unfurling in the moonless night. The motion of the waves was soothing in its rhythmic predictability, so different from the chaos of his arrival in this world. Once the sounds of urgent activity above had subsided into routine sailing operations, Naruto pulled the devil fruit box from his vest. You do have one. Nami gasped, instantly alert. Do you know what type? What it does? Supposedly controls wind, Naruto said, opening the box to reveal the strangely patterned fruit. The village elder called it a paramecia. Nami's eyes widened. That's worth a fortune to the right buyer. I'm not looking to sell it. She studied him with renewed interest. You're considering eating it? Even knowing you'll never swim again? Naruto glanced at the fruit, feeling the strange resonance between it and his chakra grow stronger the longer he held it. I'm curious what would happen. It's your funeral, Nami shrugged, unconsciously echoing the bounty hunter's words. But why waste something so valuable when you already have, whatever it is you did back at the tavern? That's just basic combat training where I come from, Naruto said, the half-truth coming easily. And where exactly is that? Because I've traveled most of the East Blue, and I've never seen anyone move like you. Naruto met her gaze steadily. Would you believe me if I said I'm not from this world at all? Nami started to laugh, then stopped when his expression didn't change. You're serious. As a heart attack. That's. She hesitated. Actually not the craziest thing I've heard sailing these seas. There are islands in the sky, sea kings the size of mountains, and people who can turn into animals. Who's to say there aren't other worlds? The ship lurched suddenly, accompanied by shouts from above. Naruto was on his feet instantly, senses alert. "That's not normal sailing," Nami said, reaching for her staff. They rushed to the deck to find chaos. Searchlights cut through the darkness from a larger vessel that had appeared alongside them, a marine ship, sleek and powerful compared to the merchant vessel. "Heave to and prepare to be boarded," came the amplified command. By order of Captain Shrike of Marine Science Division. The Merryweather's captain stood defiantly at the helm. "We're a legitimate merchant vessel on a scheduled run. You have no right to board us." The response was a warning shot that whistled over the deck, missing the mast by inches. "Second warning will not miss," the voice announced. "Intelligence suggests you are harboring persons of interest and contraband material." The captain turned to Naruto and Nami, his expression grim. "They're after you too, seems like. Got anything you want to tell me before I decide whether to hand you over or risk my ship?" Naruto made a split-second decision. "Get your ship to safety. I'll handle this." "You against a marine science vessel," the captain scoffed. "What are you going to do, swim over and punch it?" In answer, Naruto created a shadow clone beside him, an exact duplicate that grinned and gave the startled captain a thumbs up. "What in the seven seas?" the captain sputtered. "Devil fruit," Nami supplied quickly, catching on. "He's a devil fruit user." The captain backed away slightly. "You never mentioned that during our negotiations." "You never asked," Naruto replied. To Nami, he added, "Stay here. I'll lead them away." "That's suicide," she protested. Naruto smiled. "Trust me." Before anyone could stop him, he leapt to the railing and then impossibly far into the air, crossing the distance to the marine vessel in a single chakra-enhanced jump that left the crews of both ships staring in disbelief. He landed on the marine deck in a crouch, immediately surrounded by startled sailors. At the center of the ship stood a lean figure in a captain's uniform, presumably Captain Shrike, flanked by what appeared to be scientists rather than combat personnel. "Well," Shrike said, recovering quickly from his surprise. "You've saved us the trouble of boarding. How considerate." Naruto straightened, assessing his opponents. Most of the Marines looked more shocked than threatening, but Shrike carried himself with the confidence of a seasoned fighter. "I heard you were looking for me," Naruto said. "Something about energy readings?" Shrike's eyes narrowed. "Our sensors detected an unusual power signature, different from standard devil fruit emissions. When we tracked it to this vessel." He gestured to one of the scientists, who held a device that pulsed with light as it pointed at Naruto. "Off the charts, sir," the scientist confirmed. "Like nothing we've recorded before." "Fascinating," Shrike murmured. "What exactly are you, young man?" "Just a traveler," Naruto replied, subtly gathering chakra. From the corner of his eye, he could see the Merryweather beginning to pull away, using the distraction he'd provided. Shrike noticed as well. "Let them go," he instructed when a subordinate moved to pursue. "We have what we came for." To Naruto, he added, "Vice Admiral Maelstrom will be most interested in studying you. Your cooperation would make things easier for everyone." "I'm not really interested in being studied," Naruto said. "So I'll be going now." Shrike laughed. "You're surrounded by armed Marines on a ship in the middle of the ocean. Where exactly do you think you're going?" In answer, Naruto formed a hand sign. Multiple shadow clones burst into existence around the deck, each one launching into action against the startled Marines. In the confusion, the real Naruto charged straight at Shrike, testing the captain's combat abilities. Shrike proved surprisingly capable, drawing a blade that somehow extended and contracted at will. His fighting style was fluid and precise, countering Naruto's taijutsu with techniques unlike any the ninja had encountered before. "Impressive," Shrike acknowledged after they'd exchanged several blows. "But I've studied all known devil fruit combat applications. Your duplication ability is unusual but not unprecedented. How about this?" Naruto asked, forming a Rasengan. The swirling chakra manifested differently than it had on land. Here, surrounded by ocean, it took on a bluish tint and seemed to pull moisture from the air itself. Shrike's eyes widened at the technique. That's not a devil fruit power. Naruto slammed the Rasengan into the deck between them, the impact splintering wood and sending shockwaves across the ship. Alarms blared as the vessel began taking on water. Abandoned ship protocol, someone shouted as Marines scrambled for lifeboats. In the chaos, Naruto created another shadow clone, had it transform into a small object that he pocketed, then leapt back toward the retreating Merryweather, using consecutive chakra-enhanced jumps that seemed to defy physics. He landed on the merchant vessel's deck with a thud, startling the crew who had been watching the marine ship's predicament with disbelief. "How did you?" the captain began. "No time," Naruto cut him off. "They'll have lifeboats and backup. We need to put as much distance between us as possible." The captain nodded, barking orders to his crew to make full sail. As they worked, he turned back to Naruto with newfound respect and wariness. "I've sailed these seas for 30 years, he said quietly. "Seen devil fruit users of all types. But I've never seen anything like what you just did." Naruto didn't respond, his attention on Nami, who was staring at him with an unreadable expression. "You could have escaped on your own," she said when the captain had moved away. "Why come back?" "We had a deal," Naruto shrugged. "Besides, I still need that guide." Nami's lips quirked in what might have been the beginning of a smile. "You're either the strangest pirate I've ever met, or something entirely new." She gestured to his pocket, where the transformed clone bulged suspiciously. "And I'm guessing you grabbed something interesting during your visit to the marine ship?" Naruto grinned. "Maybe." As the Merryweather raced away from the damaged marine vessel, Naruto felt a strange mixture of accomplishment and unease. He'd survived his first day in this new world, made an ally, however tentative, and escaped authorities that might have detained him indefinitely. But he'd also revealed abilities that clearly marked him as unusual even by this world's standards. The Marine captain's interest suggested higher authorities would soon be looking for him. And the devil fruit still waited in its box, an unknown variable in an already complex equation. "You're making waves already, kid," Kurama commented. "Typical. Would you have it any other way?" Naruto whispered, gazing out at the night sea as it slipped past the ship's hull. "Not really. But remember, we know nothing about the predators in this ocean. Best to keep some tricks in reserve." Naruto nodded slightly, hand dropping to the pocket where his clone had transformed into what appeared to be an ordinary logbook, but which contained valuable intelligence he'd snatched from the marine vessel's navigation table. One way or another, he would find his place in this world of pirates and marines, of mysterious fruits and ancient weapons. And perhaps, eventually, a way home. But first, he needed to understand the power this world offered, a power contained in the strange fruit now hidden in his cabin. Dawn painted the horizon in fiery hues as the Merryweather cut through calm seas, having outrun any potential marine pursuit during the night. The ship's crew, initially wary of their unusual passenger, had warmed considerably after witnessing his defense of their vessel. Now they treated Naruto with a respect bordering on awe, giving him space while responding eagerly to any questions he posed about their world. Naruto stood at the bow, breathing deeply of the salt air. The transformation was remarkable, from near drowning to standing confidently on a ship bound for new horizons, all in the span of a day. Yet beneath his calm exterior, questions churned like the wake behind them. "You're thinking about the fruit," Kurama observed. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to me. You've been absently touching your vest pocket every few minutes." Naruto smiled ruefully. The box containing the devil fruit had become a constant presence in his thoughts, a potential key to understanding this world's unique power system. "I'm trying to decide if it's worth the risk," he admitted quietly. "Losing the ability to swim in a world that's mostly ocean seems like a bad trade." "Unless the power it grants outweighs that limitation," Kurama countered. Besides, our chakra network is different from these people. The effect might not be the same. Or it might be worse, Naruto pointed out. We don't know how devil fruits interact with chakra. Talking to yourself? Naruto turned to find Nami approaching, her orange hair catching the morning light. She'd been distant since his return from the marine vessel, watching him with calculating eyes that missed nothing. Just thinking out loud, he replied. About the fruit? She leaned against the railing beside him. You should sell it, you know. Wind control is valuable, but not as useful as what you can already do. And it would set you up financially for months. Naruto studied her. Is money all you think about? A flash of something, hurt, perhaps, crossed her features before her expression hardened. Money buys freedom. And in this world, freedom is the only thing worth having. Freedom from what? She turned away slightly. That's my business. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sun climb higher. The captain says we'll reach Log Town in about 10 days, assuming good weather and no more marine encounters, she finally said. What will you do then? Naruto considered this. His immediate goal had been simply to escape the island and learn more about this world. Beyond that, I'm not sure, he admitted. Find out if there's a way back to where I came from, I guess. Or figure out my purpose here if there isn't. Nami raised an eyebrow. Purpose? Most people in the Grand Line are just trying to survive, not fulfill some destiny. I've never been great at just surviving, Naruto grinned. Besides, I didn't get pulled into this world by accident. You really believe that? That you're here for a reason? I have to, he said simply. Otherwise, what's the point? Before she could respond, shouts erupted from the crow's nest. Ship ahoy! Starboard side! All eyes turned to the horizon, where sails had appeared, black sails, emblazoned with a skull wearing a crimson crown. Pirates, the first mate growled, rushing past with a spyglass. And not the friendly sort. The Merryweather's captain emerged from his cabin, taking the spyglass and assessing the approaching vessel. His expression darkened. It's the Crimson Crown, he announced grimly. Syndicate enforcers. Mean bastards who squeeze protection money from merchants in these waters. He glanced at Naruto. They must have gotten word about the marine incident. The syndicate has spies everywhere, and they're always interested in unusual devil fruit abilities. Syndicate? Naruto asked. Criminal organization, Nami explained, her face suddenly pale. They control the black markets across the Grand Line, especially devil fruit trafficking. If they're coming for us, we're in serious trouble. The pirate ship was gaining rapidly, its sleek design clearly built for pursuit. Gun ports opened along its hull, revealing cannon that could reduce the merchant vessel to splinters. They're signaling for us to heave to, the first mate reported. The captain's jaw tightened. We run, they sink us. We surrender. He left the implications hanging. Naruto stepped forward. Let me handle this. Like you handled the Marines. The captain shook his head. These aren't government scientists. The syndicate employs the worst killers on the sea. All the more reason to keep your crew out of it, Naruto insisted. Get ready to run when I give the signal. Before anyone could argue further, a voice boomed across the water, amplified by some mechanical means. Merchant vessel Merryweather. Heave to and prepare for boarding. We come on business of the syndicate. The pirate ship had closed to less than 100 meters, close enough to see figures moving on its deck, hard-faced men and women in crimson uniforms, armed with a variety of weapons both familiar and strange to Naruto's eyes. At the ship's fore stood a slender figure in an elaborate coat, face obscured by a mask shaped like a crown. This, Naruto guessed, was the captain. What's your plan? Nami whispered urgently. There must be 50 of them, and that's a combat vessel. Naruto reached into his vest and withdrew the devil fruit box. Time to see what this does. Nami's eyes widened. You're going to eat it now? That's insane. You don't even know if it will work immediately. Only one way to find out. Naruto opened the box, revealing the strange fruit with its swirled patterns. Up close, it smelled faintly of ozone and something indefinably alien. Last chance to reconsider, kid, Kurama warned. Once you bite, there's no going back. Naruto hesitated only briefly, then lifted the fruit to his lips. Here goes nothing. The taste was indescribably awful, like rotting vegetation mixed with metal and electricity. It took all his willpower not to spit it out immediately. He forced himself to swallow, feeling the fruit's essence seem to burn down his throat and spread through his body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, power surged through his chakra network, alien yet somehow compatible, as if his existing energy system were adapting to incorporate this new force. Naruto gasped, doubling over as sensations overwhelmed him, the feel of every air current against his skin, the pressure differentials across the ocean's surface, the subtle movements of atmosphere that preceded weather itself. Kid! Kurama's voice seemed distant through the cacophony of new sensations. Your chakra is changing. Not rejecting the fruit, but merging with it somehow. Naruto straightened slowly, aware of the crew watching him with a mixture of fear and fascination. The pirate vessel had drawn alongside them now, grappling hooks flying across to secure the ships together. Are you okay? Nami asked, reaching toward him hesitantly. Naruto took a deep breath, feeling the air respond to his very intention. Better than okay. He stepped to the railing as the first pirates began swinging across. With a gesture that felt as natural as breathing, Naruto swept his hand horizontally. A visible current of compressed air followed the motion, catching the boarders mid-swing and hurling them back toward their own ship with cries of surprise. It works, he said, a grin spreading across his face. The masked captain of the pirate vessel stepped forward. Interesting, came a voice, artificially deepened by the mask. So the reports were accurate. You consumed a devil fruit during the confrontation with Captain Shrike's vessel. Naruto frowned. This person seemed remarkably well informed for someone who shouldn't have known anything about the marine encounter. Who are you? He called across the narrowing gap between ships. And what do you want with me? The masked figure tilted their head. I am Crown, representative of the syndicate's interests in these waters. As for what we want. They gestured expansively. Information, primarily. Our sources indicate you possess unusual abilities, abilities that existed prior to fruit consumption. The syndicate is always interested in unique specimens. I'm not a specimen, Naruto replied evenly. And I'm not interested in joining any syndicate. A pity, Crown sighed. Then we'll have to take you by force. Nothing personal, you understand. Just business. At some silent signal, the pirates attacked en masse, dozens swarming across on ropes while others opened fire with pistols and rifles. The Merryweather's crew scattered for cover as bullets splintered wood around them. Naruto felt no fear, only a calm certainty as he tapped into his new power. The wind responded to his will, forming a visible barrier that deflected bullets and created a countercurrent that tangled the boarding ropes. Pirates shouted in alarm as their carefully coordinated assault dissolved into chaos. Impressive control for a new fruit user, Crown observed, unperturbed by the failure of the initial attack. But let's see how you handle this. The masked captain raised a hand, revealing a glove that glowed with strange energy. Whatever it was, Naruto's new wind senses detected a dangerous disturbance in the air around it. Careful, Kurama warned. I'm sensing something similar to chakra, but twisted. Crown made a grasping motion, and suddenly the air around Naruto became heavy, difficult to manipulate. His wind barrier weakened as some external force seemed to interfere with his control. A dampening glove, Crown explained pleasantly. Designed specifically to neutralize paramecia-type abilities. Quite expensive, but worth it for catching troublesome fruit users. Pirates began boarding successfully now, engaging the Merryweather's crew in combat. Nami fought skillfully with her section staff, but they were clearly outnumbered. Naruto realized he needed more than just his new fruit power. With the dampening effect interfering with the wind control, he would have to rely on his original abilities. Shadow Clone Jutsu. He called, forming the familiar hand sign. A dozen clones materialized around the deck, immediately launching into coordinated attacks against the pirates. Crown's mask couldn't hide their surprise at this development. "That's not a fruit ability," they said slowly. "What are you?" Naruto didn't answer, using the distraction to close the distance to Crown. The masked captain was clearly in use to direct combat, retreating as Naruto advanced. "The dampening glove only works on fruit powers," Naruto said, forming a Rasengan in his palm. "But this isn't from any fruit." Crown raised the gloved hand defensively, but the dampening effect had no impact on the swirling chakra sphere. Naruto thrust the Rasengan forward, not at Crown but at the deck between them. The impact blasted through the pirate ship's planking, sending splinters flying and creating a gaping hole that began taking on water. Alarm bells rang across the pirate vessel as crew members abandoned the attack to address the sudden breach. Crown staggered from the impact but remained standing, mask still firmly in place. "Most interesting," they said, voice betraying genuine fascination despite the circumstances. "The syndicate will be very interested indeed." With surprising agility, Crown leapt to the railing, pausing to look back at Naruto. "We'll meet again, outsider. Count on it." Then they dove into the sea, disappearing beneath the waves. Naruto turned his attention to clearing the remaining pirates from the Merryweather. Between his clones and his partially functioning wind abilities, the battle ended quickly. The pirate vessel was already listing badly, its crew focused entirely on survival now. "Cast off the grapples," the Merryweather's captain ordered. "Full sail while they're distracted." The merchant crew worked quickly to separate their vessel from the sinking pirate ship, eager to put distance between themselves and the syndicate enforcers. As they pulled away, Naruto noticed several pirates staring at him with expressions that mixed fear and something else, a calculating look that suggested this encounter would have consequences. Once they'd established a safe distance, Nami approached Naruto at the railing. "That was impressive," she admitted. "But also incredibly reckless. The syndicate doesn't forget enemies." "Neither do I," Naruto replied, watching the pirate ship grow smaller behind them. His body still hummed with the strange integration of devil fruit power and his chakra network, new sensations gradually becoming familiar as he adapted. "How do you feel?" she asked, eyeing him curiously. "Most people get sick their first time eating a devil fruit." Naruto considered this. "Different. Like I can feel every breeze, every change in air pressure. But also, like the fruit's power is still settling, finding its place alongside my existing abilities." "Existing abilities," Nami repeated. "Like making copies of yourself and that spinning energy attack. Things you claim aren't devil fruit powers." "They're not," Naruto confirmed. "Where I come from, they're called jutsu. Techniques that manipulate chakra, internal energy." Nami crossed her arms, skepticism clear in her expression. "And where exactly is this place where people can do things only devil fruit users can do here, without eating devil fruits?" Naruto met her gaze steadily. "I told you, another world. One where ninja like me train from childhood to master chakra techniques." "Ninja," she echoed. "Like assassins?" "Sometimes," Naruto acknowledged. "But we also protect people, complete missions, maintain balance between nations." He touched his headband, still wrapped around his wrist. "I was fighting to save my world when something went wrong. And I ended up here instead." To his surprise, Nami didn't laugh or dismiss his story outright. Instead, she studied him with thoughtful eyes. "The Grand Line is full of impossible things," she finally said. "Islands in the sky, sea kings that could swallow ships whole, people with powers that defy explanation. Who's to say there aren't other worlds out there? She paused. Do you miss it? Your home. The question hit Naruto unexpectedly hard. In the chaos of the past day, he hadn't had time to truly process what he'd lost. Friends, mentors, the village he'd fought so hard to protect, all potentially beyond reach now. Yeah, he said softly. I miss it. But ninja are taught to adapt to any situation. So that's what I'll do until I find a way back. Nami's expression softened slightly. Well, you've certainly adapted to making enemies quickly. Marines and the Syndicate in one day, that might be a record. Naruto managed a smile. I've never been good at keeping a low profile. No kidding. She glanced toward the horizon, where clouds were gathering. The captain says there's a storm coming. We'll need to secure everything below decks. As she turned to go, Naruto called after her, why are you still helping me? You could have slipped away during the battle. Nami paused, not looking back. Maybe I'm curious to see what other trouble you'll get into. Or maybe. She hesitated. Maybe I understand what it's like to be far from home, looking for a way back. With that enigmatic comment, she left him alone at the railing. Naruto remained there for a long time, feeling the approaching storm through his new sensitivity to air currents. The wind spoke to him now, telling stories of weather patterns and ocean temperatures, of islands beyond the horizon and ships crossing distant seas. You've taken your first step into this world's power system, Kurama observed. But we've also revealed ourselves to powerful organizations on both sides of the law. Not much choice, Naruto replied mentally. But you're right, we need to be more strategic moving forward. Learn the rules before we break them too badly. And find allies, Kurama added. Real ones, not just temporary partnerships of convenience. Naruto glanced toward where Nami had disappeared below decks, wondering about her cryptic final comment. I think we might be working on that already. The approaching storm clouds darkened the horizon, but Naruto faced them without fear. Whatever this new world held, marine scientists, criminal syndicates, or powers beyond imagination, he would meet it as he always had, with determination, adaptability, and an unbreakable spirit. The journey had only just begun. 2 weeks after his arrival in this strange new world, Naruto stood in a cramped room above a noisy tavern in Logue Town, studying a newly printed poster with his face on it. The likeness wasn't perfect, the artist had exaggerated his whisker marks and given him a more menacing expression, but it was recognizable enough to be concerning. Wanted, Fox Sage Naruto, the poster proclaimed. 30 million berries. Alive only. By order of Marine Science Division. Congratulations, Nami said dryly from where she lounged on the room's only bed. You're officially a criminal in the eyes of the world government. For defending a merchant ship. Naruto frowned, tossing the poster onto a cluttered table. The room was littered with maps, navigation tools, and books about devil fruits that Nami had acquired since their arrival in Logue Town 3 days ago. Welcome to the Grand Line, she replied with a shrug. Justice isn't exactly just around here. Naruto moved to the window, gazing out at the busy port city below. Logue Town was a study in contrasts, wealthy merchants alongside desperate beggars, marine officers patrolling past black market dealers operating in plain sight. It was called the City of the Beginning and the End, according to locals, the place where the legendary Gold Roger had been both born and executed. In the short time since their arrival, Naruto had immersed himself in learning everything he could about this world, its geography, politics, power structures, and most importantly, its history of devil fruits. The information was fascinating but incomplete, with significant gaps that suggested deliberate suppression. Have you decided what you're going to do now? Nami asked, interrupting his thoughts. The Merryweather leaves tomorrow. Captain says we're welcome to continue on with them to the next island. Naruto turned from the window. Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. I've heard rumors about another devil fruit being auctioned here in Logue Town, a rare one. Nami sat up, immediately alert. What kind? They're calling it the Fox Mythical Zoan. Supposedly grants the user transformation into a nine-tailed fox spirit. Nami's eyes widened. A mythical Zoan? Those are worth 10 times what your paramecia would sell for. But, she paused, studying him. Wait, you're not thinking of eating it, are you? That's impossible. No one can consume 2 devil fruits and survive. She doesn't know about me, Kurama interjected. But a fruit based on nine-tailed foxes? That can't be coincidence. I think this fruit is connected to me somehow, Naruto said carefully. To where I came from. It might help me get home. Or it might kill you instantly, Nami countered. The rejection reaction between multiple devil fruits is well documented. Your body would literally tear itself apart. Naruto touched his stomach where the seal containing Kurama resided. I might be different. Physiologically. That's a hell of a gamble to take on, might, she said, rising from the bed to face him directly. And even if you wanted to try, that auction will be crawling with wealthy collectors, Marines undercover, and probably syndicate enforcers too. After that stunt you pulled with their ship, they've doubled the bounty on your head in the underground. Which is why I need your help, Naruto said. You know Logue Town, you understand how these black market auctions work. With your skills and my abilities, we could infiltrate the auction, secure the fruit, and get out before anyone realizes what happened. Nami crossed her arms. And what's in it for me? These kinds of operations are extremely high risk. Besides not letting your new partner commit suicide by fruit? Naruto asked with a slight smile. How about a cut of my bounty when I turn myself in? Very funny, she snorted, though a hint of amusement crept into her expression. Over their journey from Palmyra Island, an unexpected camaraderie had developed between them, built on shared dangers and gradually revealed fragments of their respective pasts. Seriously, Naruto continued, you've helped me understand this world when you had no obligation to. I consider you a friend now, Nami. And I don't take friendship lightly. Something flickered in her eyes, surprise, perhaps, or a deeper emotion quickly suppressed. Friend is a dangerous word in these seas, she said quietly. Especially for someone in my position. Which is what, exactly? Naruto pressed gently. You've hinted at obligations, at needing money for something specific. Maybe I could help, if you'd tell me. Nami turned away, her shoulders tense. For a moment, Naruto thought she might actually confide in him. Then her posture changed, the vulnerability disappearing behind her usual confident facade. Fine, she said briskly. I'll help you infiltrate the auction. But if we get the fruit, we sell it. 30-70 split, with the larger share to me since I'm taking the bigger risk. No arguments about eating it unless you can prove it won't kill you. Naruto recognized the deflection but didn't push further. Deal, he agreed. When is the auction? Tomorrow night, Nami replied, moving to the table and unfurling a map of Logue Town. It's being held at the Golden Serpent, a high-end establishment in the merchant district. Invitation only, with marine patrols keeping the riffraff away. She tapped a location on the map. We'll need disguises, forged invitations, and a solid exit strategy. As she outlined the plan, Naruto marveled at her expertise. Whatever circumstances had led Nami to a life of theft, they had honed her into a master strategist and infiltration specialist. What? She asked, catching his admiring look. Just impressed, he said honestly. You'd have made a great ninja. She rolled her eyes, but a pleased smile tugged at her lips. Save the flattery for when we're not planning a heist that could get us both killed or imprisoned. She rolled up the map decisively. Get some rest. Tomorrow we become wealthy socialites with a passion for exotic collectibles. After she'd left for her own room across the hall, Naruto sat on the bed, his thoughts turning to the mysterious fox fruit and its possible connection to Kurama. It's too specific to be coincidence, Kurama agreed. Something about this world resonates with our chakra differently than others. Perhaps the same forces that pulled us here also created an echo of my power in the form of a devil fruit. And if I consume it? Hard to say, the fox admitted. But given how your chakra network absorbed the paramecia fruit without rejection, I suspect something similar would happen with this one, especially if it's already attuned to fox energy. Naruto lay back, staring at the ceiling. Guess we'll find out tomorrow. Assuming Nami's plan works. The thief is clever, Kurama acknowledged. But she's still hiding something significant. Be cautious about how much you trust her. Everyone has secrets, Naruto replied, thinking of his own past. Doesn't mean she isn't trustworthy when it matters. Sleep came fitfully that night, filled with dreams of oceans that stretched endlessly and a familiar voice calling from across dimensions, Sakura? Kakashi? He couldn't quite tell. When morning broke, Naruto rose determined but unsettled, the sense that events were accelerating beyond his control nagging at him like an itch he couldn't scratch. Nami arrived at his door mid-morning, arms laden with clothing packages. Your disguise, she announced, tossing him a bundle. Wealthy merchant from the North Blue, in town for business opportunities. I'll be your fiancé, which explains why we're together and gives us an excuse to whisper to each other. Naruto examined the clothes, finely tailored garments in subdued colors, designed to suggest money without flaunting it. Impressive. Where did you get all this? I have my methods, she replied vaguely. The invitations are being finalized by a forger I know. They'll be ready by afternoon. And how do we pay for all this? Naruto asked, knowing full well that his limited funds couldn't cover such expenses. Nami smiled enigmatically. Let's just say several wealthy guests at the Royal Harbor Inn discovered their rooms mysteriously lighter this morning. Nami. Naruto began disapprovingly. Relax, she cut him off. They were all marine officers living on taxpayer money. Besides, we need their money more than they do. Naruto couldn't argue with her results, even if her methods remained questionable. As they prepared throughout the day, reviewing floor plans of the auction house and practicing their roles as affluent couple, he found himself appreciating her attention to detail and quick thinking. By evening, he barely recognized himself in the mirror. His hair had been temporarily darkened and styled differently, his whisker marks concealed with makeup, and his posture adjusted to suggest aristocratic bearing rather than warrior readiness. Nami, however, underwent the more dramatic transformation. Gone were her practical sailing clothes, replaced by an elegant gown that accentuated her figure while maintaining freedom of movement. Her orange hair was pinned up elaborately, and subtle cosmetics enhanced her already striking features. Stop staring, she admonished when she caught Naruto's surprised look. Haven't you seen a dress before? Not on you, he replied honestly. You look different. That's the point of a disguise, she said, though a slight blush colored her cheeks. Now remember, you're Takashi Kurosawa, tea merchant from North Blue. I'm Akane, your adoring fiancé. We've recently developed an interest in collecting rare artifacts, particularly those with historical significance. And if anyone asks specific questions about tea, deflect, she instructed. Say your business managers handle the details while you focus on client relationships. Most of these collectors are dilettantes themselves, they won't press too hard. The Golden Serpent lived up to its name, a palatial establishment with gold-leaf serpents coiling around its entrance pillars. Marine guards checked invitations at the door while well-dressed attendees arrived in carriages and palanquins. Ready? Nami whispered, adjusting Naruto's collar one last time. He nodded, settling into his character with the ease of someone trained in covert operations. Let's do this. Their forged invitations passed inspection without issue, and soon they were mingling among the Grand Line's elite, wealthy merchants, minor nobles, and collectors with specific interests in devil fruits. Nami navigated the social waters with surprising grace, guiding Naruto through introductions and small talk while gathering information about the auction structure. "The main event doesn't start for another hour," she murmured behind her fan. "They're displaying the lesser items now, building anticipation for the fruits. Any sign of marine officers? Or the syndicate?" Naruto asked quietly, accepting a glass of something bubbly from a passing server. "Both," Nami confirmed. "See the man by the eastern column? Marine intelligence, poorly disguised. And the woman in red near the stage is definitely syndicate, I recognize her from wanted posters." Naruto scanned the room carefully, noting exits and potential obstacles. His wind sensitivity, now fully integrated with his chakra system after 2 weeks of practice, allowed him to feel subtle air currents throughout the building, giving him a three-dimensional awareness of the space that extended beyond visual range. "There's something else," he said suddenly, focusing on a strange disturbance in the air patterns from a room beyond the main hall. "Something powerful. It's affecting the atmosphere around it." "The fruits," Nami guessed. "They're probably keeping them in a secure room until the bidding starts." They circulated through the gathering, Nami expertly extracting information from tipsy collectors while Naruto kept track of security movements. The plan was simple in concept: create a distraction during the auction, substitute a shadow clone transformed to look like the fox fruit, and escape in the confusion. As the main auction approached, guests were directed to numbered seats in a theater-like arrangement facing an elevated stage. Naruto and Nami found their assigned places near the middle, close enough to see clearly, but not so close as to draw attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced a suave auctioneer as he took the stage, "welcome to the Golden Serpent's exclusive Devil Fruit Auction. Tonight we have 3 exceptional specimens for your consideration, each verified by expert appraisers." A murmur of anticipation rippled through the audience. First, the auctioneer continued, a paramecia type identified as the Nuno fruit, granting the user control over fabric and textiles. A servant brought forth a glass case containing a purple fruit with swirling patterns. Bidding commenced immediately, with the fruit eventually selling for 8 million berries to a fashion magnate from the East Blue. Our second offering, a Zoan type, the Uma fruit, model, Pegasus. A rare mythical variant granting winged horse transformation capabilities. This fruit, golden and emanating a faint glow, sparked even more aggressive bidding. Naruto noted that both the disguised marine and the syndicate representative participated, driving the price to 30 million berries before a corpulent noble claimed victory. And finally, the auctioneer announced with dramatic flair, the crown jewel of tonight's auction. A mythical Zoan of the highest order, the Inu fruit, model, Kitsune. Legend suggests this fruit grants the user transformation into a 9-tailed fox spirit with mastery over divine foxfire. The servant returned, this time carrying a larger case containing a fruit that seemed to shimmer with internal light. Its surface was a deep orange with red swirl patterns that reminded Naruto of Kurama's fur. "That's it," Kurama confirmed, his voice unusually intense. "I can feel it from here, a resonance with our chakra. It's like looking at a mirror reflection of my own power." The starting bid was 50 million berries, immediately doubled by an eager collector. The price climbed rapidly, with the syndicate representative particularly aggressive in her bidding. "Now," Nami whispered when the bidding reached 100 million. Naruto formed a hand sign beneath the cover of his jacket, creating a shadow clone in an unoccupied service corridor he'd identified earlier. The clone, transformed to resemble a waiter, slipped into the back of the auditorium with a tray of champagne glasses that concealed several smoke bombs. Across the room, at Naruto's mental direction, the clone accidentally bumped into another server, sending the tray crashing to the floor. As the assembled elite gasped at the disruption, the smoke bombs activated, filling the auction hall with dense white vapor. Chaos erupted instantly, coughing guests fled toward exits while security rushed to investigate the disturbance. In the confusion, Naruto created a second clone that transformed into an exact replica of the fox fruit while he himself used a burst of wind-enhanced speed to reach the stage, swapping the real fruit with the duplicate in a movement too fast for the human eye to track. Fire, someone shouted, adding to the panic. The building's on fire. Naruto returned to Nami's side, the real fruit concealed inside his jacket. Time to go, he murmured. They moved with the frightened crowd toward the main exit, maintaining their wealthy personas despite the urgency. Just as freedom seemed within reach, a hand clamped onto Naruto's shoulder with surprising strength. "Interesting trick with the smoke," said a familiar voice, artificially deepened by a mask. Naruto turned to find Crown standing behind him, the same crown skull mask in place despite their formal attire. "I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about," Naruto replied in his merchant persona's voice. "My fiancé and I were simply attending the auction when this unfortunate incident occurred." "A clever disguise," Crown acknowledged, "but your chakra signature is unmistakable, Fox Sage. Did you really think the syndicate wouldn't recognize your energy pattern after our previous encounter?" Nami stepped between them smoothly. "Sir, you're clearly confused. My fiancé is a tea merchant, not whatever ridiculous title you just used. Now if you'll excuse us," Crown's masked face turned toward her. "Ah, Nami the cat burglar. Your reputation precedes you as well. Arlong will be interested to know you found a new partner." Nami went rigid, color draining from her face at the mention of Arlong, a name Naruto had never heard her mention. "What an interesting pair you make," Crown continued conversationally, seemingly unconcerned with the chaos around them. The dimensional traveler and the pirate's slave, both seeking freedom through power beyond their reach. "He knows too much," Kurama growled. "About both of you." "We don't have time for this," Naruto said, dropping the merchant persona. "Move aside." "I think not," Crown replied. "The syndicate has invested considerable resources in tracking you, Fox Sage. That fruit rightfully belongs to us." Around them, the smoke was beginning to clear as marine security established control over the panicked crowd. They had perhaps moments before someone recognized them. "Last chance," Naruto warned. Crown merely tilted their masked head. "You seem to misunderstand the situation. This isn't a negotiation." Naruto felt a sudden shift in the air currents, a compression suggesting imminent attack. Acting on instinct, he shoved Nami aside as something invisible slashed through the space where they'd been standing, cutting through a marble column as if it were butter. "Air pressure manipulation," Crown explained, raising a gloved hand. "Similar to your wind fruit, but refined through years of practice. Shall we compare techniques?" Another invisible slash cut toward them, this one broader and more powerful. Naruto countered with his own wind ability, creating a swirling barrier that dispersed the attack. Around them, people screamed and fled as the confrontation escalated. Marine officers pushed through the crowd, weapons drawn. "We need to go," Nami urged, pulling at Naruto's arm. "Now." Crown seemed unconcerned by the approaching authorities. "The syndicate always collects what's due," they said calmly. "We'll be seeing each other again very soon." With a gesture, Crown created a vortex of compressed air that blasted upward through the ceiling, showering the room with debris. In the resulting confusion, they vanished, leaving Naruto and Nami to face the converging Marines. "This way." Nami pulled him toward a service entrance partially concealed by fallen decorations. They burst into a narrow corridor and ran, shedding elements of their disguises as they fled through the building's back passages. "How did Crown know about me?" Naruto demanded as they emerged into an alley behind the Golden Serpent. "About where I'm from?" "I don't know," Nami gasped, kicking off her impractical shoes and hitching up her dress for better mobility. "But they knew about me too, about Arlong." "Who's Arlong?" Her expression closed off instantly. "No one important. Just someone I used to work with." Before Naruto could press further, shouts at the end of the alley signaled Marines closing in. They ran deeper into Logetown's maze-like back streets, using Nami's knowledge of the city to evade pursuit. Eventually, they reached a small boathouse Nami had prepared as a contingency. Inside was a modest sailing skiff with provisions for several days. We can't go back to the inn, Nami said, already changing into practical sailing clothes she'd stashed earlier. They'll have descriptions of us by now, even if our disguises were good. Naruto nodded, still processing Crown's words about dimensional travelers. How could the syndicate possibly know where he'd come from? And what had Crown meant about Nami being a pirate slave? The fruit, Nami said, interrupting his thoughts. Let me see it. Naruto withdrew the kitsune fruit from his jacket. Up close, its resemblance to Kurama was even more pronounced, the orange-red coloration, the swirling patterns like tails in motion. We should leave immediately, Nami continued, eyeing the fruit warily. Head out of Logue Town tonight while the Marines are still searching the city. Not yet, Naruto said firmly. There's something I need to do first. Nami's eyes widened as his meaning registered. You can't be serious. Here. Now. After we just confirmed that consuming multiple fruits is a death sentence. Crown called me a dimensional traveler, Naruto pointed out. They know things about my origins that I haven't told anyone, not even you. That suggests they know something about how I got here, and maybe how I can get back. Or they're just guessing to throw you off balance, Nami countered. It's a common syndicate tactic. Naruto shook his head. It's too specific. And this fruit, it's too perfect a match for Kurama. Who's Kurama? Should I? Naruto silently asked his tenant. Might as well, the fox replied. She's seen enough to deserve some truth. Kurama is the nine-tailed fox spirit sealed inside me, Naruto explained, placing a hand on his stomach where the seal markings would appear if channeled with chakra. Where I come from, he's what we call a tailed beast, an entity of pure chakra with immense power. We're partners. Nami stared at him as if he'd grown a second head. You have a fox, inside you. And you talk to it? Rude, Kurama sniffed. I'm not an it. Him, Naruto corrected. And yes. It's complicated, but in my world, certain people are chosen as vessels for tailed beasts. I've been Kurama's Jinchuriki, his human container, since the day I was born. Understanding dawned in Nami's eyes. And you think that's why you survived eating the first devil fruit? Because you already have something similar inside you. Exactly, Naruto nodded. My chakra system is different from normal humans in this world. And this fruit, he held up the kitsune fruit, resonates with Kurama's energy. I believe it was created for me to find. Nami bit her lip, visibly torn between concern and curiosity. And if you're wrong? Then I die, Naruto said simply. But I've never been one to play it safe when the potential reward is this important. Before she could argue further, he raised the fruit to his lips and bit deeply. The taste was even more revolting than the wind fruit had been, like copper and ash and something ancient that defied description. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. Then, fire erupted within him, not painful but transformative, as if every cell in his body were being rewritten. Kurama's chakra surged in response, meeting this new energy not as an invader but as a missing piece of a complex puzzle. Naruto fell to his knees, dimly aware of Nami calling his name from what seemed like a great distance. Inside his mindscape, Kurama roared, not in pain but in recognition, as if greeting a long-lost reflection of himself. It's integrating. The fox exclaimed, sounding almost giddy. The fruit's power, it's merging with my chakra, enhancing rather than competing. Naruto gasped as new sensations flooded him, heightened senses beyond even his normal enhanced state, an awareness of fire that mirrored his wind sensitivity, and a deep connection to vulpine energy that felt like coming home. When he finally opened his eyes, Nami was kneeling before him, concern written across her features. Naruto? She whispered, reaching out tentatively. Are you, still you? He nodded, unable to speak yet as the transformation continued to cascade through his system. Looking down at his hands, he saw they had developed slight claws, and he could feel sharper canines when he ran his tongue over his teeth. Most noticeably, his whisker marks, previously just distinctive facial features, had deepened and grown more pronounced. Your eyes, Nami breathed. They're red. And your pupils. Vertical. Naruto guessed, his voice rougher than before. She nodded wordlessly. With effort, Naruto stood, feeling new strength flowing through his limbs. Experimentally, he reached for the fox power, finding it responded eagerly to his will. Orange-gold energy manifested around him, not quite Kurama's chakra cloak, but something similar, and behind him, ethereal tails shimmered into existence. 1, 2, 3. Nami counted in astonishment. 9 tails. The mythical form is responding to my presence, Kurama explained. Instead of rejecting each other, our energies are harmonizing. This world's physics are allowing something impossible in our dimension. Naruto released the transformation, the tails and energy cloak fading as his appearance returned mostly to normal, though the enhanced whisker marks and slightly sharper features remained. It worked, he said, still marveling at the sensation. The fruit recognized Kurama and adapted to our existing bond instead of trying to impose a new one. Nami shook her head in disbelief. You're either the luckiest fool I've ever met, or there's something truly special about you, Naruto Uzumaki. Maybe both, he grinned, feeling more like himself than he had since arriving in this world. The fox fruit had somehow anchored him, confirming his connection to his home dimension while paradoxically making him more attuned to this new reality. A commotion outside interrupted their moment, shouting voices and the sound of organized movement. Nami peered through a gap in the boathouse walls. Marines, she confirmed grimly. They're searching buildings along the waterfront. We need to leave now. Naruto joined her at the window, assessing the situation. At least 20 Marines were moving methodically through the area, led by a familiar figure, Captain Shrike, looking none too pleased after their previous encounter. They're blocking all the obvious exits, Naruto observed. But I have an idea. Nami raised an eyebrow. Does it involve your new fox powers? Naturally, he smiled, feeling Kurama's energy mingling with the fruit's power. How do you feel about making a flashy escape? Generally against them, she replied dryly. But I'm guessing subtle isn't an option anymore. Not really, Naruto admitted. But trust me, this will be worth seeing. As Marines closed in on the boathouse, Naruto summoned his new power. Golden-orange energy enveloped him, the 9 spectral tails manifesting behind him as his features shifted to something more vulpine. At the same time, he accessed his wind fruit abilities, creating currents that lifted the small boat and its occupants from the water. What are you doing? Nami gasped, clutching the sides of the skiff as it rose. Combining powers, Naruto explained, foxfire dancing around his wind currents. Hold tight. The boathouse roof exploded upward as their vessel burst into the night sky, propelled by a combination of wind control and foxfire that left a blazing trail across Logetown's skyline. Below, Marines stared in disbelief at the spectacle, a small boat flying through the air, surrounded by golden energy shaped like 9 massive fox tails. You call this not drawing attention? Nami shouted over the wind, but her eyes sparkled with excitement despite her words. Naruto laughed, feeling freer than he had since arriving in this dimension. Sometimes the best way to disappear is to be so visible that no one believes what they're seeing. They soared over Logetown, away from the harbor and the pursuing Marines, toward the open sea beyond. In the town square, citizens pointed skyward, many falling to their knees at what they perceived as a divine manifestation. And somewhere in the shadows, a masked figure watched the spectacle with keen interest, communicating the development to their superiors via transponder snail. Confirmed, Crown reported. The fox sage has consumed the kitsune fruit and survived. The theories about his unique physiology appear correct. Excellent, replied a distorted voice. Continue monitoring but do not engage directly. If he can integrate multiple mythical Zoans as predicted, he may be exactly what we've been searching for. And the girl? The navigator? A useful lever, perhaps. Maintain surveillance on both. Crown ended the transmission, watching until the glowing vessel disappeared beyond the horizon. The first phase of the Syndicate's grand plan was proceeding exactly as designed, though the subject had proven even more adaptable than anticipated. Safe travels, Fox Sage, Crown murmured. The sea has much yet to teach you. Dawn broke over the Grand Line, painting the endless ocean in hues of gold and crimson. The small skiff, having long since returned to conventional sailing after its spectacular aerial departure from Logetown, cut through gentle waves under Nami's expert guidance. Naruto sat at the bow, his eyes closed in meditation as he acclimated to the changes wrought by the kitsune fruit. His consciousness floated in the shared mindscape where Kurama resided, a space that had transformed since the fruit's consumption. What was once a flooded chamber with bars representing the seal had evolved into a vast forest clearing, golden trees stretching toward an endless sky. Kurama himself appeared different, his fur more vibrant, patterns of energy swirling across his massive form like living calligraphy. The integration continues, the fox observed, stretching languorously. This world's devil fruit energy merges with our chakra in ways I wouldn't have thought possible. It feels right, Naruto agreed, watching as golden energy flowed between them. Like the fruit was created from an echo of your power. Perhaps it was, Kurama mused. This world's energies operate under different laws than our own. The barriers between dimensions may be more permeable than we realized. Naruto considered this. Could that mean there's a way home? Possibly, the fox nodded. But it may require more than we currently possess. The crown person mentioned dimensional traveler, suggesting others have made similar journeys. Or that the syndicate knows something about interdimensional travel, Naruto added. Either way, we need more information. And more power, Kurama said bluntly. If there are forces that can move beings between dimensions, they're not to be taken lightly. Naruto opened his eyes, returning to full awareness of the physical world. Nami was watching him curiously from the tiller. Do you always zone out like that when you're talking to your fox? She asked. More or less, he admitted, stretching. Kurama and I were discussing what happened with the fruit. And, she prompted. Any insights on how you survived something that should have killed you instantly? Naruto explained their theory about dimensional resonance and the compatibility between tailed beast chakra and devil fruit energy. As he spoke, Nami's expression shifted from skepticism to thoughtful consideration. So you think there might be other fruits specifically attuned to your unique energy? She asked when he finished. It's possible, Naruto nodded. The fox fruit was too perfect a match to be coincidence. And if Crown's information is accurate, the syndicate seems to know something about dimensional travelers, which means others like me might have come to this world before. Nami adjusted their course slightly, her eyes scanning the horizon. The Grand Line is full of legends about people with impossible powers appearing throughout history. Most are dismissed as exaggerations, but... She shrugged. After what I've seen you do, I'm more inclined to believe them. What's our heading? Naruto asked, noting the intensity of her focus on navigation. There's an island called Ashen Key about 2 days' sail from here, she replied. Small, relatively unimportant, which means the Marines won't look for us there immediately. We can resupply, gather information, and plan our next move. Naruto nodded, impressed by her foresight. You're good at this. Running, hiding, staying ahead of pursuers. A shadow crossed her face. I've had practice. Because of Arlong? He asked gently. The person Crown mentioned. Nami's hands tightened on the tiller. For a long moment, Naruto thought she would deflect again or change the subject. Then, surprisingly, she sighed. Arlong is a fishman pirate, she said, her voice carefully controlled. He controls my home island. Has for years. And you work for him? Her laugh was bitter. Not willingly. He murdered someone I love and gave me a choice: work for him as a navigator and cartographer, or watch everyone else I care about die too. The pieces fell into place: Nami's obsession with money, her careful avoidance of personal attachments, her reluctance to stay in one place too long. "You're gathering funds to free your island," Naruto realized. "To buy Arlong off or hire someone to defeat him?" She nodded, not meeting his eyes. 100 million berries. That was his price for my village's freedom. I've been stealing from pirates for years, building my savings bit by bit. How much do you have now? Almost 93 million, she admitted. I'm close, but you're worried he won't honor the agreement, Naruto finished for her. That he'll take the money and keep control anyway. Nami's silence was confirmation enough. Naruto stood, moving to sit beside her at the stern. "Let me help," he said simply. She looked up sharply. "This isn't your fight, Naruto. You have your own problems, getting home, avoiding Marines and the Syndicate." "I'm making it my fight," he replied. "That's what friends do." "Friends," she echoed, the word sounding foreign on her lips. "You keep using that word. We've known each other for what, 3 weeks? And most of that time I was planning to rob you blind at the first opportunity. And yet here we are," Naruto smiled. "Still together, still watching each other's backs. Where I come from, that counts for something." Nami studied him, wariness warring with hope in her expression. "You don't understand what Arlong is capable of. He's not just some pirate, he's a fishman, 10 times stronger than a normal human. He has a crew of elite fighters and controls multiple islands. People who stand against him die. I'm not a normal human either," Naruto pointed out. "And now I have 2 devil fruit powers on top of my ninja abilities. At the very least, I can help you finish gathering the money you need." She shook her head, but there was less conviction in the gesture. "Why would you risk everything for someone you barely know? For a place you've never even seen?" Naruto's expression grew serious. "Because that's who I am. In my world, I was training to become Hokage, the leader and protector of my village. Not for power or glory, but because I wanted to safeguard the people who matter to me." He gestured to the endless ocean around them. "Right now, in this world, you're one of those people, Nami." A tear slipped down her cheek, quickly brushed away. "You're either the kindest person I've ever met or the biggest fool," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Probably both," Naruto admitted, echoing her earlier assessment. For the first time since he'd known her, Nami's smile reached her eyes, a genuine expression that transformed her face and hinted at the person she might have been without Arlong's shadow hanging over her. "All right, Fox Sage," she said, the epithet sounding like a term of endearment rather than a wanted poster title. "We'll do this together. But first, we need to stay alive long enough to make it back to East Blue." As if summoned by her words, a shadow fell across their small vessel. Both looked up to see an enormous seabird circling above, but not any natural species. This creature's wingspan stretched wider than a house, its feathers metallic and gleaming in the morning light, with what appeared to be a human observer strapped to a harness on its back. "Marine surveillance," Nami whispered, recognizing the bird. "They use trained South Blue condors for long-range spotting. If that rider has a spyglass." "They've already seen us," Naruto confirmed, noting the bird's deliberate circling pattern. "How long before they can get ships to this location?" "Hours, maybe less if there are patrols nearby." Nami's mind raced through options. "We could try to outrun them, but this skiff isn't built for speed. Or we could change course, head for a different island." Naruto stood, accessing his fox energy. Golden light shimmered around him as spectral tails manifested. "Or," he suggested with a grin that revealed sharpened canines, "we could remove their eyes in the sky." Before Nami could respond, Naruto launched himself upward with a combination of chakra and wind manipulation, rocketing toward the surveillance bird with foxfire trailing behind him like a comet's tail. The marine observer spotted his approach too late, frantically trying to steer the giant condor away. Naruto intercepted them with precision, materializing a shadow clone that grappled with the observer while he himself severed the control harness with a wind blade. The massive bird, freed from its restraints, immediately banked away from the strange fox-human hybrid that had disrupted its trained patterns. The marine observer, however, found himself suspended thousands of feet above the ocean, held by the collar of his uniform in Naruto's clawed grip. "Beautiful day for flying, isn't it?" Naruto asked conversationally as they hovered. The terrified man could only stare at the 9 spectral tails waving behind his captor. "Here's what's going to happen," Naruto continued. "You're going to tell me everything you know about marine movements in this area, and then I'm going to deliver you safely to the nearest land mass. Sound fair?" The observer nodded frantically. 5 minutes later, Naruto returned to the skiff with useful intelligence and -1 marine observer, now clinging to a small rocky outcropping several miles away, where Naruto had deposited him with enough supplies to survive until rescue. 3 marine vessels patrolling within a day's sail, he reported to an incredulous Nami. Plus something called a science frigate that's specifically tracking energy signatures matching my devil fruit emissions. This science frigate, Nami frowned. Did he mention who commands it? Captain Shrike, operating under orders from Vice Admiral Maelstrom. Naruto settled back into the boat. Apparently this Maelstrom is obsessed with unusual devil fruit users, collects them for study, according to the observer. Nami's expression darkened. Maelstrom has a reputation. They say he experiments on pirates with unique abilities, trying to understand how devil fruits interact with human biology. Some call him the Butcher Admiral behind his back. Charming, Naruto muttered. So we have Marines hunting us scientifically, the Syndicate tracking us for unknown purposes, and eventually Arlong to deal with. Any other enemies we should add to the list? Give it time, Nami replied dryly. The Grand Line specializes in creating new problems before you've solved the old ones. Despite the growing complications, Naruto found himself strangely energized. The fox fruit had not only enhanced his powers but also his connection to this world, as if consuming part of its magical system had made him more fully present within it. We're becoming something new, Kurama observed from within their shared mindscape. Neither purely of our world nor fully of this one. A bridge between dimensions. Is that a good thing? Naruto silently asked. It's a necessary thing, the fox replied. If we hope to understand the forces that brought us here, and perhaps find our way home, we must first become attuned to this world's unique energies. Naruto gazed across the endless blue expanse, feeling the wind and sea as extensions of himself through his devil fruit powers. Whatever path lay ahead, whatever enemies awaited, he would face them with the same determination that had carried him through every challenge in his life. And this time, he wouldn't face them alone. Nami, he said suddenly, after we deal with Arlong, what do you want to do? What's your dream? She seemed startled by the question, as if no one had bothered to ask about her aspirations in a very long time. I want to make a map of the entire world, she finally said, a spark of genuine passion in her voice. Every island, every current, every hidden reef and mysterious phenomenon. A perfect chart that would let anyone navigate safely through even the most treacherous waters. Naruto smiled, recognizing the same fire that drove his own dreams of becoming Hokage. Then that's what we'll do, he said with certainty. Free your island, make your maps, and along the way, figure out how I got here and what it means. Just like that, she asked, though her tone held more amusement than doubt now. Just like that, he confirmed. Between your navigation skills and my growing collection of impossible abilities, I'd say we make a pretty formidable team. The cat burglar and the fox sage, Nami mused, adjusting their course slightly. Sailing the Grand Line, outrunning marines, fighting evil pirates. She shook her head, but she was smiling. It sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud. The best adventures usually do, Naruto replied, grinning as the wind caught their sail and propelled them toward the horizon, and whatever adventures awaited beyond. Behind them, unnoticed in their wake, something glimmered beneath the waves, a massive shape following their vessel with predatory patience. The sea held many secrets, and the journey of the dimensional traveler had only just begun. Chapter 2, Tempest of Souls. Lightning split the sky as Naruto stood at the bow of the Tempest Runner, his face lifted to the storm. Rain lashed his skin, but he remained unmoved, golden eyes gleaming in the darkness as he tracked the patterns of the gathering tempest. 3 months in this world had taught him much, about its oceans, its powers, and its dangers, but nothing fascinated him more than its weather. "Are you communing with the storm or just getting soaked for fun?" Nami called from behind him, her voice carrying over the wind. Naruto turned, a smile breaking across his face. His features had changed subtly since consuming the kitsune fruit, sharper canines, more pronounced whisker marks, and eyes that shifted between blue and vulpine gold depending on his emotional state. Now, with the addition of 2 more devil fruits in the month since Logue Town, his presence carried an otherworldly quality that drew stares wherever they traveled. "Both," he admitted. "The Thunderbird fruit lets me feel the storm's heart. It's alive, somehow. Conscious in a way I can't quite explain." Nami joined him at the railing, her own clothes already drenched. As the Tempest Runner's navigator, she had insisted on personally guiding them through this notorious stretch of the Grand Line known as the Shatter Belt, a region where normal compasses failed and weather changed with deadly suddenness. "We need to adjust course," she said, glancing at the log pose on her wrist. "This storm is pushing us toward the Helldrift current. If we get caught in that, even your fancy powers won't save us." Naruto nodded, trusting her judgment implicitly. In the months they'd been sailing together, her navigational instincts had proven nearly supernatural in their accuracy. Even experienced captains deferred to her when charting passages through treacherous waters. "Tell Captain Faulkner I'll help with the sails," he said. "I can use the Thunderbird form to stabilize the worst of the wind gusts." She hesitated, worry briefly crossing her features. "Don't overdo it. You're still adjusting to the third fruit." Her concern warmed him even as he waved it away. "I'm fine. Kurama and I have almost completely integrated the dragon fruit's energy." "Almost isn't completely," she reminded him, but didn't press further. Instead, she squeezed his arm briefly before heading toward the quarterdeck to confer with the Tempest Runner's captain. Naruto watched her go, admiring the confidence in her stride. So much had changed since their escape from Logue Town. The frightened, secretive thief had gradually given way to a woman who commanded respect through her skills and intelligence. They'd grown closer too, their initial partnership of convenience evolving into something deeper neither had fully defined. "She's right about the dragon fruit," Kurama commented within their shared mindscape. "The Bakunawa's power is still settling. Using Thunderbird abilities simultaneously might destabilize our chakra network." "We don't have much choice," Naruto replied mentally. This storm could tear the ship apart without intervention. He felt Kurama's reluctant agreement as he called upon the second mythical Zoan fruit he'd consumed, the Tori Tori no Mi model, Thunderbird. Power surged through his body, electricity dancing across his skin as massive spectral wings manifested behind him, shimmering with golden blue energy. Unlike a typical Zoan transformation, Naruto's unique chakra system allowed him to access partial aspects of each fruit's abilities, blending them in ways impossible for normal devil fruit users. The crew, initially wary of the strange passenger with multiple fruit powers, now cheered as Naruto launched himself skyward. They had witnessed enough of his abilities over the past weeks to overcome their fear, replacing it with a superstitious reverence that sometimes made him uncomfortable. Naruto soared above the Tempest Runner, wings beating against gale-force winds as he extended his consciousness into the storm itself. The Thunderbird fruit granted not just flight and lightning generation, but a profound connection to atmospheric phenomena, a connection he now leveraged to create a corridor of relative calm around the struggling vessel. Lightning answered his call, striking through him rather than the ship's vulnerable masts. The energy coursed through his body, painful but exhilarating as his Thunderbird aspect absorbed and redirected it. Below, he could see sailors working frantically to adjust the sails according to Nami's instructions, their coordinated efforts slowly bringing the ship back under control. For nearly an hour, Naruto maintained his vigil, wrestling with winds that sought to capsize them and waves that threatened to swallow them whole. Only when the Tempest Runner cleared the worst of the squall did he allow himself to descend, landing on the main deck with a heavy thud as exhaustion finally caught up with him. "Cutting it a bit close, weren't you?" Captain Faulkner remarked, offering a flask of something strong-smelling. The grizzled mariner had initially refused to transport them when learning of Naruto's multiple devil fruit abilities. Unnatural, he'd called it, but the generous payment Nami offered had overcome his reluctance. Naruto accepted the flask with gratitude, taking a deep swallow that burned all the way down. Had it under control, he rasped, though the tremor in his limbs suggested otherwise. "Sure you did," Faulkner snorted, reclaiming his flask. "Your navigator says we should reach Taipan Island by tomorrow noon, assuming the weather holds." He squinted at the now clearing sky. "Think your bird trick settled it for good?" "For now," Naruto confirmed, feeling the storm's rage dissipating as it moved eastward. "But the Grand Line never stays calm for long." "Ain't that the truth?" Faulkner muttered, then raised his voice to address the crew. "Secure all weather lines and check for damage. Double watch tonight in case that tempest circles back." As sailors hurried to comply, Naruto made his way below decks, the Thunderbird aspect gradually receding as he released the transformation. By the time he reached the small cabin he shared with Nami, only his slightly electrified hair revealed the power he'd been channeling. He found her hunched over her charts, plotting their revised course with meticulous precision. She didn't look up as he entered, though a small smile acknowledged his presence. "That was reckless," she said, making another notation on the map. "I could feel the electrical disturbances from here. You nearly lost control." "But I didn't," Naruto pointed out, collapsing onto the narrow bunk. "And the ship's still afloat. This time." She finally looked up, concern evident in her brown eyes. "Naruto, you've consumed 3 mythical Zoan fruits in less than 4 months. Nobody's body should be able to handle that kind of power." He couldn't argue with her logic. The second fruit, the Thunderbird, had been easier to integrate than expected, perhaps because electrical energy wasn't entirely foreign to his chakra nature. But the third, the Ryu no Mi model, Bakunoa, moon-eating dragon with gravity manipulation abilities, had proven more challenging. For days after consuming it, he'd experienced disorienting shifts in perception as his body adapted to the alien power. "Kurama helped stabilize them," he said, not for the first time. "The fox aspect recognizes the other mythical beasts as, I don't know, cousins. It creates harmony where there should be conflict." Nami set down her compass, her expression softening. "I know. And what you've accomplished is miraculous. But I worry." She hesitated. "I worry about what happens when the miracle runs out." The unspoken fear between them, that eventually, Naruto would encounter a fruit his body couldn't absorb, or that the cumulative strain would overwhelm even his enhanced physiology. They'd had this conversation before, but neither had definitive answers. "I won't take unnecessary risks," he promised, knowing even as he spoke that circumstances might force his hand. Each fruit had dramatically increased his combat capabilities, making him better equipped to face the growing threats pursuing them: marine science divisions, syndicate enforcers, bounty hunters attracted by his now substantial reward. His latest wanted poster read, "Fox Sage, Naruto, 150 million berries," with the ominous addition of, "Approach with extreme caution, anomalous subject." Nami seemed to read his thoughts. "Your bounty will be higher after today. The Marines are especially interested in weather manipulation abilities." "Then it's a good thing we're headed to Taipan," Naruto replied, forcing lightness into his tone. "According to Captain Faulkner, it's outside normal Marine patrol routes." "Nothing stays outside Marine attention for long these days," Nami said grimly, returning to her charts. "Not with Maelstrom expanding the Science Division's authority." The latest rumors say he's conducting experiments on devil fruit users, trying to extract and transfer abilities between test subjects. Naruto frowned. Vice Admiral Maelstrom had become their most persistent hunter, his obsession with Naruto's unique physiology driving him to deploy increasingly sophisticated tracking technologies. Captain Shrike, his protege, had nearly captured them during a supply stop at Hammerhead Bay, only Naruto's combined Fox and Thunderbird abilities allowing their narrow escape. All the more reason to maintain a low profile at Taipan, he said. Get supplies, gather information, and move on before anyone realizes we were there. Nami nodded, though her expression suggested skepticism about their chances of remaining unnoticed. Naruto Uzumaki and low profile had proven mutually exclusive concepts. Get some rest, she advised, setting aside her navigational tools. You look exhausted, and we'll need our wits about us tomorrow. Naruto didn't argue, his body already shutting down after the intense exertion of weather manipulation. As he drifted toward sleep, he felt Nami's weight settle beside him on the narrow bunk, a closeness that had become comfortingly familiar in recent weeks. Her fingers brushed through his hair, soothing the residual static electricity still crackling there. We'll figure this out, she murmured, more to herself than to him. One island at a time. His last conscious thought was a wordless agreement as Kurama's regenerative energy worked to restore his depleted reserves. Whatever challenges awaited at Taipan Island, they would face them together. Taipan Island emerged from morning mist like a crouching beast, all jagged cliffs and dense vegetation, with a single harbor town nestled in its eastern bay. Unlike the organized ports of major trading hubs, Taipan's waterfront presented a chaotic jumble of architectural styles, suggesting a settlement built by waves of different inhabitants over centuries. Charming, Nami remarked as they approached, studying the town through a spyglass. Exactly the kind of place that attracts people who don't want to be found. Captain Faulkner grunted agreement from his position at the helm. Taipan's been neutral territory for generations. No marine base, no permanent world government presence. Just traders, smugglers, and the occasional pirate crew discreet enough to not cause trouble. Sounds perfect, Naruto said, adjusting the wide-brimmed hat that concealed his distinctive hair and facial features. Their disguises were simple but effective, Nami in a dark wig and practical sailing clothes that downplayed her figure, Naruto in nondescript workman's attire with bandages wrapped around his cheeks to hide his whisker marks. Don't get comfortable, Faulkner warned as they prepared to disembark. Taipan's neutrality depends on information flowing freely. Everything has a price here, including knowledge of who's recently arrived. How long will you be in port? Nami asked, securing her staff to her back. 3 days at most. Just long enough to offload cargo and take on fresh water. The captain fixed them with a measuring look. My advice? Conduct your business quickly. Places like Taipan stay safe by ensuring no one overstays their welcome. They thanked him for the counsel and descended the gangplank into the bustling harbor district. Despite the early hour, Taipan's marketplace was already alive with activity, fishmongers hawking the day's catch, merchants arranging exotic wares, and taverns serving patrons who looked like they hadn't stopped drinking from the night before. We need supplies, Nami said, consulting a small list. Fresh food, medical items, navigation charts for the southern quadrant. And information. Naruto nodded, scanning the crowd with senses enhanced by his multiple fruit abilities. The fox aspect sharpened his hearing and smell, while the Thunderbird granted sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, including those generated by transponder snails used for communication. It was this latter sense that had saved them from ambushes more than once. Something feels off, he murmured, detecting unusual patterns in the harbor's energy field. There's a concentration of electronic equipment somewhere nearby. Too sophisticated for a backwater port. Nami tensed beside him. Marines? Not sure. Different signature than their standard gear. He focused, filtering through the electromagnetic noise. It's coming from the northern edge of town. Some kind of research facility, maybe. Let's split up, Nami suggested. I'll handle the supplies while you investigate. Less conspicuous that way. Naruto hesitated, reluctant to separate. Are you sure? She rolled her eyes. I survived just fine before meeting you, Uzumaki. Besides, you're the one with the monster bounty. Fair point, he conceded with a half smile. 2 hours, then we meet back here. Make it 3. Taipan's merchants are notoriously difficult negotiators. She produced a small transponder snail from her bag. Take this. It's paired with mine, secure frequency, short range only. If trouble finds either of us, one squeeze alerts the other. Naruto accepted the snail, impressed by her foresight. Always prepared, aren't you? One of us has to be, she replied, but her smile took any sting from the words. Try not to start any international incidents while I'm shopping. No promises, he called after her as she disappeared into the market crowd. Naruto turned north, moving casually through the winding streets while maintaining heightened awareness of his surroundings. Taipan's architecture grew more eclectic the further he traveled from the harbor. Stone structures with elaborate carving stood alongside bamboo huts and modern buildings of steel and glass. The population seemed equally diverse, with representatives of races from across the Grand Line going about their business. The electromagnetic signature grew stronger as he approached the island's northern plateau, where a complex of low buildings sat partially concealed by tropical foliage. Unlike the haphazard construction of the town below, these structures displayed methodical design, uniform white walls, security cameras disguised as ornamental fixtures, and a perimeter fence camouflaged with flowering vines. Research facility, Kurama confirmed as Naruto observed from a secluded vantage point. But not military. The security is subtle rather than imposing. Private sector, Naruto agreed. But who's funding it, and what are they researching? The answer came unexpectedly as a group of figures emerged from the main building, scientists in white coats escorting a woman whose hands were bound with what appeared to be sea stone cuffs. Even from a distance, Naruto could see she moved with reluctant dignity, her dark hair falling around a face whose striking features remained composed despite her evident prisoner status. They have a captive, he whispered, Fox-enhanced vision allowing him to make out details that would have been invisible to normal eyes. Devil fruit user, most likely, Kurama observed. Sea stone restraints suggest they fear her abilities. As if confirming their suspicions, one of the scientists addressed the woman loudly enough for Naruto's enhanced hearing to catch fragments. Cooperation would make this easier, Miss Nico, historical knowledge, awakening potential. The woman's response was too quiet to discern, but her body language conveyed controlled defiance. Something about her bearing struck Naruto as familiar, though he was certain they'd never met. His musings were interrupted by the transponder snail in his pocket, vibrating urgently. Nami was signaling trouble. With a last glance at the mysterious prisoner, Naruto retreated from his observation point and sprinted back toward town, pushing his enhanced physiology to move faster than any normal human could manage without obvious use of devil fruit powers. Within minutes, he reached the marketplace, senses alert for Nami's location. He found her in a tense standoff behind a row of market stalls. 3 men in civilian clothes but with unmistakable marine posture had cornered her against a stone wall. They weren't openly threatening, but their positions blocked any easy escape. Just asking friendly questions, one was saying as Naruto approached within earshot. Captain Shrike believes you might have information about a person of interest. I've already told you, I'm just a navigator from East Blue, Nami replied, her voice steady despite the danger. I've never heard of any fox sage. Yet your description matches a woman seen traveling with him after the Logue Town incident, another Marine said. Orange hair, expert navigation skills, carries a section staff weapon. Do you know how many orange-haired navigators sail these seas? Nami countered. It's hardly an unusual combination. Naruto assessed the situation quickly. The Marines weren't being openly aggressive, suggesting they weren't certain of Nami's identity, just suspicious enough to question her. Direct intervention might confirm their suspicions, but leaving her alone wasn't an option. He activated a subtle aspect of the fox fruit, altering his appearance just enough to seem like a different person without obvious transformation. His whisker marks faded, hair darkened, and features shifted slightly, a disguise technique he'd refined through practice. "There you are, sis," he called cheerfully, sauntering into the confrontation with deliberate casualness. "Mom's looking for you. Says you wandered off without finishing your chores again." The Marines turned, instantly wary of the newcomer. Nami's momentary confusion gave way to quick understanding as she recognized him despite the altered appearance. "Just making some new friends," she replied, gesturing to the Marines. "These gentlemen were telling me about someone they're looking for. A devil fruit user with multiple abilities." "Multiple abilities?" Naruto whistled, playing up his role as an ignorant local. "Thought that was impossible. Devil fruits reject each other, everyone knows that." "Apparently this one's different," Nami said. "What did you call him?" "The Fox Sage." The lead Marine studied Naruto with narrowed eyes. "That's classified information, miss." "Sir, does your sister often engage with strangers about sensitive matters?" "All the time," Naruto sighed dramatically. "Can't take her anywhere without her chatting up everyone she meets. Come on, sis. Mom's making Sea King stew, and you know how she gets when it goes cold." He offered his arm, which Nami took with exaggerated reluctance. The Marines, finding no obvious reason to detain them but clearly unsatisfied, stepped aside with visible reservation. "If you do encounter any information about the individual we discussed," the lead Marine said, "the world government offers substantial rewards for actionable intelligence." "We'll keep that in mind," Naruto assured him with a guileless smile. "Always happy to help the Marines keep us safe from dangerous criminals." They walked away at a measured pace, maintaining their sibling charade until turning a corner that put several buildings between them and the Marines. "That was too close," Nami muttered once they were relatively secure. "They're definitely Shrike's men, part of a covert team, not regular patrol. I spotted them watching the docks when we arrived." "Did you get what we needed?" Naruto asked, subtly scanning for pursuers. She patted her bag. "Enough to get by. But we can't return to the Tempest Runner, they'll be watching it now." "We need to leave Taipan," Naruto agreed. "But first, there's something you should see. A research facility on the north side with at least one devil fruit user being held against their will." Nami frowned. "Private research? Or government?" "Unclear. But they're interested in history, based on what I overheard. And the prisoner, there was something familiar about her." "Her?" Nami's interest sharpened. "Dark-haired woman, tall, composed even in captivity. They called her Miss Nico something." Nami's face drained of color. "Nico Robin? Are you certain? You know her?" "Of her," Nami corrected, glancing around nervously. "Everyone in the Grand Line has heard of Nico Robin, the demon child of O'Hara. She's the only survivor of a buster call that wiped an entire island off the map 20 years ago. The world government has been hunting her since she was 8 years old." "What did she do to earn that kind of attention?" Naruto asked, surprised. "She can read poneglyphs, ancient stone texts from the Void Century. The world government has forbidden that knowledge on pain of death." Nami's expression grew troubled. "If she's here, in a research facility. Someone wants her archaeological expertise," Naruto finished. "And they're holding her against her will to get it." A silent understanding passed between them, neither could ignore such a situation, regardless of the risk to themselves. Their own experiences with captivity and coercion made walking away impossible. "We need more information before acting," Nami said practically. "If it's a world government black site, we could be walking into a trap designed specifically for devil fruit users." "Agreed. But time might be limited if they're conducting experiments." Naruto considered their options. "The town has to have information networks. Someone who knows what that facility really is. Information brokers, Nami nodded. And I know exactly where to find them in a place like Taipan. The Siren's secret occupied a precarious position on Taipan's eastern cliffs, its weathered structure seemingly one strong gust away from tumbling into the sea below. Despite its dilapidated exterior, the tavern hummed with quiet activity, conversations conducted in hushed tones, goods changing hands beneath tables, and servers who seemed to notice everything while acknowledging nothing. Perfect, Nami murmured as they entered. See the woman at the corner table? Green headscarf, brass spyglass on her belt. That's our broker. Naruto followed her gaze to an elderly woman whose wizened appearance belied the sharp intelligence in her eyes. She sat alone, nursing a steaming mug while observing the tavern's patrons with calculated disinterest. How can you be sure? He asked quietly. Professional courtesy, Nami replied with a hint of pride. Information brokers recognize each other. It's in the way we watch a room. They approached casually, Nami leading with a confidence that suggested routine business rather than desperate need. The woman acknowledged them with the barest nod, gesturing to empty chairs at her table. Travelers, she observed, her voice like rustling parchment. Recently arrived on the Tempest Runner. Already drawing marine attention. Naruto tensed, but Nami remained composed. Information flows quickly in Taipan. It's our primary export, the woman replied with a thin smile. What interests you enough to seek Madame Lark's services? The research facility on the northern plateau, Nami said directly. Its purpose, ownership, and current activities. Lark's expression didn't change, but something in her posture suggested increased caution. Expensive information. Dangerous to those who possess it. We can pay, Nami assured her, sliding a small pouch across the table. The clink of gold was audible even over the tavern's ambient noise. The broker weighed the pouch in her palm without opening it, then tucked it away with practiced efficiency. The Taipan Institute for Historical Research, she began. Ostensibly a private academic organization studying ancient civilizations. In reality, a syndicate operation focused on weaponizing historical knowledge. Naruto and Nami exchanged glances at the mention of the syndicate, the criminal organization whose enforcer, Crown, had confronted them in Logue Town. What kind of historical knowledge? Naruto asked. The kind the world government has spent centuries suppressing, Lark replied. The Void Century. Ancient weapons. The true function of devil fruits in relation to lineage factors. She sipped her drink. Their current project involves correlating poneglyph translations with devil fruit awakening conditions. Hence their interest in Nico Robin, Nami concluded. Lark's eyebrows rose slightly. You're well informed for newcomers. Yes, they acquired the O'Haran Scholar 2 weeks ago, extracted her from a marine transport vessel during a storm. The syndicate has sought her knowledge for decades. Is she the only prisoner? Naruto pressed. The only one of significance. They maintain a small contingent of test subjects, primarily devil fruit users with abilities useful to their research. Lark studied him with sudden intensity. Users like yourself, perhaps. The fox powers are distinctive, even when concealed. Naruto didn't bother denying it. What's their security like? Formidable but discreet. 20 trained guards with sea stone weapons. Advanced surveillance systems. At least 2 syndicate enforcers with powerful fruit abilities. She paused. Including their chief researcher, a man known only as Vasquez. Don Quixote Vasquez? Nami asked sharply. Lark nodded. The puppet master himself. Rumored to be distant relation to the Don Quixote family, though he avoids association with their more notorious members. What's his ability? Naruto asked, recalling stories of the infamous syndicate enforcer, a man said to control others as easily as breathing. The string fruit, Lark replied. Similar to another infamous Don Quixote, but with a specialized application. He attaches invisible strings to a person's nervous system, allowing him to access their memories, abilities, and motor functions without their awareness. Mind control, Nami muttered. Perfect for extracting information from unwilling subjects. Or forcing devil fruit users to demonstrate awakened states, Lark added. Which is precisely what he's attempting with Nico, Robin and the others. Naruto considered this information, a plan already forming. When does the facility change guard rotations? Lark's weathered face creased with something between amusement and concern. You're planning an intervention. Ambitious, considering the resources aligned against you. Answer the question, Nami said, sliding another gold coin across the table. Please. The broker accepted the payment with a nod. Midnight and noon. The midnight shift is smaller, skeleton crew only, as most experiments are conducted during daylight hours. Any other details we should know? Naruto asked. Lark seemed to weigh her words carefully before responding. 2 things. First, Vasquez never sleeps, a side effect of his fruit ability. Second, there's a marine science vessel scheduled to arrive tomorrow. Apparently, the syndicate has arranged to sell certain research findings to someone in the world government. Maelstrom, Nami guessed. The science division has been expanding cooperation with private researchers when it serves their interests. Dangerous bedfellows, Lark observed. When criminals and governments collaborate, ordinary people suffer the consequences. She rose from the table with surprising grace for her apparent age. A final piece of information, unbilled. The facility's power generator is vulnerable, located in an underground chamber with external ventilation near the eastern perimeter. Disrupted, and their security systems will default to mechanical backups for approximately 3 minutes before auxiliary power engages. With that cryptic assistance, she departed, leaving Naruto and Nami to plan their next move. Tonight, then, Nami said once they were alone. Before the marine vessel arrives. Naruto nodded. We'll need to move quickly. Free Robin and any other prisoners, then secure transportation off Taipan before dawn. The Tempest Runner is still our best option, Nami mused. Captain Faulkner might be persuaded to depart early, especially if the alternative is a syndicate marine conflict erupting around his ship. Assuming we can reach the harbor without being intercepted, Naruto cautioned. Shrike's men are still watching for us. Nami's expression turned calculating. Then we give them something else to watch. A distraction big enough to pull attention from both the facility and the harbor. What did you have in mind? Her smile held a mischievous edge that reminded Naruto of her cat burglar persona. How do you feel about a little weather manipulation? Midnight found them positioned on the forested ridge overlooking the Taipan Institute, the facility's white buildings ghostly in the moonlight. Security patrols moved with clockwork precision along predetermined routes, while surveillance cameras swept across carefully maintained grounds. To normal observers, infiltration would have seemed impossible without triggering multiple alarms. Fortunately, Naruto Uzumaki was far from normal. Ready, he whispered to Nami, who crouched beside him with her staff assembled and ready. She nodded, eyes fixed on her timepiece. Power disruption in 3 minutes. Once inside, we'll have 20 minutes at most before the alarm spreads to town. Naruto closed his eyes, accessing the Thunderbird aspect of his abilities. Unlike the full transformation he'd used during the ocean storm, this application required precision, a targeted electromagnetic pulse to disrupt the facility's power grid without the dramatic lightning display that might alert Taipan's inhabitants. He extended his awareness, feeling the facility's electrical systems as distinct patterns against the background energy of the island. The main generator pulsed below ground, just where Madame Lark had indicated, connected to the buildings above by heavily shielded conduits. Careful, Kurama cautioned. Too much power will fry the systems permanently. We need them to restart on auxiliary exactly as planned. I know, Naruto murmured, focusing intently. Just enough to trigger the shutdown sequence. He released a controlled burst of electromagnetic energy, directing it through the ventilation system Lark had mentioned. The effect was immediate but subtle, Lights throughout the complex flickered momentarily, then died completely as automatic safety protocols engaged. "Now," Nami whispered. They moved silently down the ridge, Naruto leading with senses heightened by the fox fruit. In the confusion of the power failure, guards rushed to predetermined positions, creating predictable gaps in the perimeter security that allowed the pair to slip onto the grounds undetected. The Eastern Research Wing, according to Lark's information, housed the detention cells for test subjects. Naruto and Nami made their way there through shadows, avoiding patrols communicating frantically via backup transponder snails. Unexplained power fluctuation, check generator room, secure primary subjects, a side entrance yielded to Nami's lock-picking skills, allowing them into a corridor dimly illuminated by emergency lighting. Naruto extended his senses, detecting multiple heartbeats behind reinforced doors along the hallway. 6 prisoners, he whispered. Plus 2 guards at the far end. We need to move quickly, Nami reminded him. Find Robin first, she'll likely be under heavier security than the others. The guards posed minimal challenge, a wind-enhanced dash and 2 precise strikes left them unconscious before either could raise an alarm. Naruto appropriated their keys and communication devices, the latter providing useful intelligence as they proceeded deeper into the facility. Auxiliary power engaged in East Wing, came a voice through the stolen transponder snail. Proceed with subject relocation per Vasquez's instructions. They're moving the prisoners, Nami realized. We need to hurry. The detention area revealed 6 cells with observation windows, 5 occupied by devil fruit users in various states of distress, the 6th empty but recently so, judging by the disturbed bedding. Robin's already been moved, Naruto concluded, examining the empty cell. Recently, within the last few minutes. What about these others? Nami asked, indicating the remaining prisoners. A moral dilemma Naruto hadn't anticipated. Their plan had focused on extracting Robin, whose knowledge made her particularly valuable and vulnerable. But leaving other prisoners behind felt wrong, especially seeing their condition, clearly subjects of painful experimentation. We free them all, he decided. Create more chaos for our escape. Nami nodded approval as they quickly unlocked the cells. The prisoners, 3 men and 2 women, all bearing signs of devil fruit modifications, initially reacted with suspicion until Naruto briefly demonstrated his fox aspect, establishing himself as a fellow fruit user rather than a syndicate researcher. The syndicate studying awakening conditions, a gaunt man with bark-like skin explained as they gathered in the corridor. Forcing transformations through stress, pain, and chemical stimulation. Where would they take Robin? Nami asked urgently. Central Laboratory, replied a woman whose blue-tinged complexion suggested water-based abilities. That's where Vasquez conducts his primary research. But you'll never reach it, the security is. Alarms blared suddenly throughout the facility, cutting off her warning. Red emergency lights bathed the corridor as a mechanical voice announced, security breach in detention sector. All personnel implement containment protocol Sigma. So much for subtlety, Nami muttered. Plan B. Naruto nodded grimly. Get these people to the rendezvous point. I'll find Robin and meet you there. We're separating. That wasn't the plan, she protested. Plans change, he replied, already accessing the dragon fruit's power. Black scales materialized along his forearms as gravity around him fluctuated subtly, the Bakunawa's influence manifesting. I can move faster alone, and you're better suited to guide them safely. Nami wanted to argue, he could see it in her expression, but practicality won out. 30 minutes, she conceded. If you're not at the harbor by then, I'm coming back for you. Fair enough, he agreed, knowing she meant every word. As Nami led the freed prisoners toward a service exit, Naruto turned toward the facility's center, where the most valuable research, and presumably Robin, would be located. The Bakunawa's gravity manipulation allowed him to move in ways that defied normal physics, alternately lightening his body to leap impossible distances and increasing localized gravity to tear through obstacles. The central laboratory complex proved more heavily guarded than the detention area, with squads of armed security personnel establishing defensive positions at each junction. Naruto avoided direct confrontation where possible, using shadow clones to create diversions while he advanced through ventilation systems and structural weaknesses identified by his enhanced senses. The woman's nearby, Kurama reported, sensing a distinct chakra signature. Strong, disciplined mind. Unusual fruit ability, not elemental or physical transformation. Naruto followed this impression to a sealed laboratory door, behind which he detected 3 heartbeats, one calm and measured, Robin, he presumed, one slightly elevated but controlled, and one racing with excitement or agitation. No time for subtlety. Combining the Thunderbird's electromagnetic manipulation with the dragon's gravity control, Naruto created a localized distortion that overwhelmed the door's security systems and tore the reinforced metal from its frame. The laboratory beyond was a study in clinical sterility, white surfaces, advanced equipment, and at its center, an examination chair where Nico Robin sat restrained by sea-stone cuffs. Unlike the other prisoners, she appeared physically unharmed, though her expression revealed carefully controlled fury. Beside her stood a slender man in an immaculate white suit, his fingers moving in subtle patterns that reminded Naruto of a puppeteer manipulating invisible strings. Don Quixote Vasquez, presumably. The third person, a nervous-looking scientist clutching a clipboard, backed away as Naruto entered. Fascinating, Vasquez remarked, seemingly unfazed by the dramatic entrance. The fox sage himself, right on schedule. Crown's intelligence suggested you might appear if we acquired the right bait. Robin's eyes widened slightly at Naruto's arrival, but she remained silent, assessing the situation with remarkable composure for someone in her position. Let her go, Naruto demanded, golden energy swirling visibly around him as fox, Thunderbird, and dragon aspects manifested simultaneously, a controlled display of power meant to intimidate. Vasquez smiled thinly. 3 mythical Zoans, integrated without rejection. Truly remarkable physiology. His fingers twitched. I wonder, what would happen if I attached my strings to your nervous system? Could I access all 3 fruit powers simultaneously? The research possibilities are endless. Not interested in becoming your research subject, Naruto replied, scanning the room for traps or hidden attackers. Everyone says that initially, Vasquez shrugged. But science requires sacrifice. With a flick of his wrist, nearly invisible strings shot toward Naruto, aiming for vital points that would grant neural access. Naruto countered with a burst of fox fire that incinerated the strings midair. Vasquez's expression registered genuine surprise, clearly unaccustomed to having his ability neutralized so easily. Impossible, the syndicate researcher muttered. My strings are impervious to conventional countermeasures. I'm not conventional, Naruto replied, creating 3 shadow clones that immediately engaged the laboratory's automated defense systems while he advanced on Vasquez. The puppet master recovered quickly, launching a more complex attack pattern with strings targeting from multiple angles. Though individually vulnerable to fox fire, their sheer number and speed made complete neutralization impossible. Several attached to Naruto's left arm, instantly creating a sensation of foreign intrusion as Vasquez attempted to establish control. Rejected, Kurama growled, flaring his chakra to burn away the invasive energy. His power works through the nervous system, but we can isolate affected pathways. Naruto grimaced as his arm momentarily went numb, then regained function as Kurama's intervention severed Vasquez's strings. The syndicate researcher backed away, genuine concern now visible behind his calculated exterior. You're not just multiple fruit abilities, he realized. There's something else, another consciousness helping you resist. What are you? Someone who doesn't like seeing people used as laboratory specimens, Naruto answered, creating a Rasengan infused with fox fire, a modified technique he developed by combining his original abilities with devil fruit powers. Vasquez abandoned subtlety, unleashing a barrage of strings that formed a protective cage around himself while simultaneously controlling the nervous system of the terrified scientist, forcing the man to attack Naruto with a concealed weapon. Naruto easily evaded the unwilling assault, knocking the scientist unconscious with minimal force before turning his attention back to Vasquez. The string barrier presented a more substantial challenge, dense enough to block physical attacks while allowing Vasquez to launch offensive strings through microscopic gaps. An impasse, until Robin spoke for the first time. Behind him, she said calmly. Coolant pipes for the cryogenic storage unit. Highly pressurized. Naruto understood immediately. Using the Bakunawa's gravity manipulation, he intensified gravitational pull on a specific point behind Vasquez, causing the mentioned pipes to buckle and rupture. Supercooled gas flooded the area, flash freezing Vasquez's strings and creating momentary blindness that allowed Naruto to close distance. The puppet master had no defense against direct physical combat once his strings were neutralized. A precisely delivered Rasengan sent him crashing into his own equipment, the impact rendering him unconscious amid shattered laboratory apparatus. Naruto quickly located the keys to Robin's restraints, freeing her from the sea stone cuffs. "Can you walk?" he asked, noting how she massaged circulation back into her wrists. "Perfectly," she replied, rising with fluid grace that suggested considerable physical conditioning beneath her scholarly appearance. "Though I admit, this rescue is unexpected. You're not with the Revolutionary Army, are you?" "No," Naruto said, leading her toward the exit as alarms continued blaring throughout the facility. "Just someone who doesn't like seeing people imprisoned against their will." "The legendary fox sage," she observed, following him with surprising calm given the circumstances. "Your recent exploits have created quite a stir in certain circles. 3 devil fruits, according to reports. Previously thought impossible." "We can discuss impossibilities later," Naruto replied as they navigated the increasingly chaotic facility. Security forces rushed in multiple directions, their coordination disrupted by conflicting priorities: contain escaped test subjects, secure valuable research, apprehend intruders. They encountered resistance at a junction leading to the eastern exit, 6 guards with sea stone weapons forming a blockade. Naruto prepared to engage them, but Robin stepped forward with quiet confidence. "Allow me," she said. Crossing her arms in an unusual gesture, she murmured, "Cease fleur, clutch." Arms sprouted from the guards' bodies, perfect duplicates of Robin's own limbs manifesting directly from their torsos, shoulders, and backs. With synchronized movements, these phantom limbs restrained and then incapacitated all 6 guards simultaneously, leaving them unconscious but unharmed. "Impressive," Naruto acknowledged as the phantom limbs dissolved in a shower of flower petals. "The flower fruit," Robin explained as they continued. "Not as flashy as your abilities, but useful in its applications." They reached the exterior relatively unhindered after that, Robin's power complementing Naruto's in creating an efficient escape route. Outside, the situation had escalated dramatically. Nami's distraction was in full effect. A localized storm system hovered directly over Taipan's harbor, lightning striking with suspicious precision at marine patrol boats while leaving merchant vessels untouched. The weather phenomenon, clearly artificial to informed observers, had drawn attention exactly as intended, security forces from throughout the island converging on the waterfront rather than pursuing facility escapees. "Your companion has a flair for theatrics," Robin noted dryly. "You have no idea," Naruto replied with a hint of pride. They made their way through the forest toward the rendezvous point Nami had established, a secluded cove east of the main harbor where a small vessel waited. The other freed prisoners had already boarded, with Nami directing preparations for immediate departure. Her expression brightened visibly when she spotted Naruto, though she quickly masked it with professional efficiency. "Right on time," she called. "We need to move before they realize this storm isn't natural." Introductions were brief as they boarded, the vessel already pulling away from shore as syndicate forces finally began organizing a cohesive response to the multiple crises. In the confusion, their escape went largely unnoticed, one small boat among many seeking shelter from the mysterious storm. Once safely beyond Taipan's territorial waters, Nami released her control over the weather system, allowing natural patterns to reassert themselves. The abrupt cessation would likely contribute to the confusion, giving them additional time to rendezvous with the Tempest Runner at predetermined coordinates offshore. The captain wasn't thrilled about the early departure, Nami informed them as they sailed. But a substantial bonus convinced him of the urgency. "Where are we headed?" Robin asked, her posture relaxed yet alert, still evaluating her rescuers with scholarly interest. "That depends partly on you," Naruto replied honestly. "The Tempest Runner continues to Alabasta. The other former prisoners have chosen to disembark at different ports along the way." Robin considered this. "And what do you want from me in exchange for this rescue?" "Everyone wants something." Her directness was refreshing, though the inherent suspicion spoke volumes about her life experiences. "Information, potentially," Nami answered before Naruto could. "About poneglyphs, the Void Century, and possibly dimensional travel." Robin's composed expression revealed a flicker of genuine surprise. "Dimensional travel? An unusual interest for pirates." "We're not exactly pirates," Naruto corrected. "At least, not in the traditional sense." "Yet you oppose both the world government and the syndicate," Robin observed. "In these seas, that effectively makes you pirates, regardless of whether you claim the title." She wasn't wrong, Naruto reflected. Their actions since arriving in this world had increasingly positioned them as enemies of established authority, even as their intentions remained focused on survival and understanding rather than conquest or plunder. "What were the syndicate hoping to learn from you?" Nami asked, steering the conversation back to practicalities. Robin's expression grew more guarded. "They believe certain poneglyphs contain instructions for artificially inducing devil fruit awakening, the advanced state where abilities evolve beyond their basic parameters." Vasquez theorized that combining this knowledge with his string manipulation could create controlled awakenings in research subjects. "To what end?" Naruto pressed. "Power," Robin replied simply. "Awakened devil fruits represent some of the most formidable abilities in existence. An army of users with forcibly awakened fruits, controlled through Vasquez's strings, would be nearly unstoppable." The implications were chilling, particularly combined with Madame Lark's information about the syndicate's arrangement with Marine Science Division. If Maelstrom gained access to such technology. "And the dimensional travel aspect?" Nami prompted. Robin studied Naruto with renewed interest. Certain ancient texts reference travelers from beyond the Veil of Worlds, beings whose energy systems allowed them to interact with devil fruits differently than native inhabitants. "The syndicate believes you might be such a traveler." Naruto exchanged glances with Nami. This confirmed their suspicions that the syndicate knew more about his origins than they'd revealed. "I am," he acknowledged. "Though not by choice. I was fighting to protect my world when something went wrong, a dimensional tear that pulled me here instead." Robin nodded as if this merely confirmed an existing hypothesis. The poneglyphs mention similar incidents throughout history, individuals with unique energy systems drawn to our world during periods of significant transformation. The ancient scholars called them harmony bringers, though translations are imprecise. "Are there records of these people returning to their worlds?" Naruto asked, the question he'd carried since his arrival finally finding voice. "Some," Robin confirmed, though her tone suggested caution. Though the methods varied and often required significant power, both in the metaphysical and political sense. The world government has suppressed this knowledge precisely because dimensional boundaries represent one of the few forces they cannot fully control. Hope and apprehension mingled in Naruto's chest. For the first time since arriving, he had confirmation that return might be possible, yet the path remained obscure, potentially requiring resources beyond his current reach. "We should continue this conversation aboard the Tempest Runner," Nami suggested, noting the approaching vessel on the horizon. "More comfortable, and less exposed." Robin agreed with a nod, though her watchful demeanor never fully relaxed. Years of betrayal and pursuit had clearly ingrained caution into her very being. As they prepared to transfer to the larger ship, Naruto found himself reflecting on the rapidly expanding complexities of their situation. What had begun as a simple quest for understanding and survival had evolved into something far more consequential, involving ancient conspiracies, governmental corruption, and forces that transcended dimensional boundaries. And at the center of it all, the growing recognition that his presence in this world might not be accidental after all, but part of a pattern stretching back through centuries of carefully suppressed history. Vice Admiral Maelstrom's private quarters aboard the marine science vessel Empirical Truth reflected its occupants' methodical nature, precisely organized research materials, medical equipment maintained to exacting standards, and surveillance monitors displaying data feeds from multiple sources. The man himself stood before the largest screen, his tall frame silhouetted against scrolling information about the Taipan incident. "Confirmation, sir," reported Captain Shrike from the doorway. "The syndicate facility has been completely compromised. Vasquez is in custody, though unconscious and unable to provide immediate intelligence. The test subjects, including Nico Robin, have escaped." Maelstrom didn't turn, his attention fixed on energy readings displayed in complex waveform patterns. "And our primary target?" "Present at the scene, according to all reports. Multiple witnesses described abilities consistent with the Fox Sage's known powers, plus additional manifestations suggesting further devil fruit integration." This drew Maelstrom's attention. He turned, revealing a face more suited to a scholar than a military commander, thoughtful eyes behind rimless spectacles, features handsome but severe, with a precision to every movement that suggested constant internal calculation. "Show me," he ordered. Shrike activated a portable projection device, displaying footage captured by the facility's backup security systems. Though fragmented, the images clearly showed Naruto utilizing multiple fruit abilities simultaneously: foxfire manipulation, gravity distortion, and electromagnetic interference. 3 confirmed mythical Zoans, Maelstrom observed, his voice betraying rare emotion, scientific excitement. Fully integrated and independently accessible. Extraordinary. The Science Division has never documented such physiological compatibility, Shrike noted. By all established research, multiple devil fruit consumption should result in immediate catastrophic rejection. Which means our subject represents either an entirely new human subspecies or... Maelstrom's eyes narrowed behind his glasses. Something not entirely human at all. He crossed to a secure cabinet, unlocking it with both key and personal authorization code. From within, he withdrew a leather-bound journal whose aged pages contained handwritten notes and diagrams dating back decades. "Are you familiar with Dr. Vegapunk's early research into dimensional boundary theory, Captain?" he asked, carefully turning pages filled with complex calculations. "Only by reputation, sir. It's classified beyond my clearance level." "As it should be," Maelstrom agreed. 30 years ago, Vegapunk detected energy anomalies suggesting our world occasionally intersects with parallel dimensions, moments of harmonic convergence where the barriers between realities temporarily weaken. He found the page he sought, revealing diagrams of energy patterns remarkably similar to those currently displayed on his monitors. During these convergences, transfer of matter or energy becomes possible. Most instances are minor, unexplained weather phenomena, temporary gravitational anomalies. But occasionally, something, or someone, crosses over, Shrike concluded, understanding dawning. Precisely. Maelstrom closed the journal reverently. Vegapunk theorized that entities from other dimensions might possess energy systems fundamentally different from our own, systems that could interact with devil fruits in unprecedented ways. "You believe the Fox Sage is such an entity?" "The evidence supports that hypothesis. His chakra network, what little we've been able to observe from distance readings, operates on principles that defy our understanding of human biology." Maelstrom's expression hardened. "Which makes his capture and study an absolute priority. The applications for defense, medicine, and weaponry are incalculable." Shrike hesitated before asking, "And Nico Robin?" "Her escape compromises multiple ongoing investigations." A secondary concern, Maelstrom dismissed. "Her knowledge of ancient texts is valuable but ultimately academic." The fox sage represents something immediate and actionable, a living subject whose biology could revolutionize our understanding of devil fruits and dimensional boundaries simultaneously. He returned to the surveillance monitors, studying the energy signatures with clinical detachment. Set course for Mariewa. I need to consult with Dr. Vegapunk personally about modifying our containment protocols. Conventional sea stone restraints may prove insufficient against a multidimensional entity. And our pursuit of the fox sage? Continue tracking but maintain observation distance only. His power grows with each new fruit integration. Direct confrontation would be premature without proper containment measures. Maelstrom's thin lips curved in what might generously be called a smile. Besides, our quarry appears to be collecting historically significant individuals. First the cartographer from East Blue, now the demon child of O'Hara. His movements are becoming more predictable as his circle expands. Understood, sir. Shrike saluted crisply and departed to implement his orders, leaving Maelstrom alone with his research and calculations. The Vice Admiral returned to Vegapunk's journal, tracing equations with reverent fingers. His obsession with unusual devil fruit manifestations had begun decades earlier, after witnessing the destruction of his home island by a rogue user whose awakened abilities had spiraled beyond control. The world government's inability to predict or counter such threats had revealed a fundamental gap in their power, one Maelstrom had dedicated his career to closing. In the Fox Sage, he saw not just a research subject but the potential key to absolute control over devil fruit powers, perhaps even the means to transfer abilities between hosts without the unpredictability of natural fruit regeneration. The perfect soldier, he murmured to himself. Unlimited fruit integration, deployable anywhere, absolutely loyal to justice. The vision had sustained him through years of methodical advancement through Marine ranks, carefully positioning himself to lead the Science Division's most sensitive research initiatives. Now, with evidence of dimensional travelers materializing exactly as Vegapunk had theorized, vindication seemed tantalizingly close. A priority communication alert interrupted his contemplation. The message bore the highest security classification, direct from Marine headquarters. Vice Admiral Maelstrom, began the recorded voice of Fleet Admiral Sengoku himself. Your request for special authorization regarding Project Harmonic Convergence is granted, with conditions. Dr. Vegapunk will meet you at Mariewa in 3 days to evaluate your findings. Be advised, the Gorosei have taken personal interest in this matter. The dimensional traveler represents potentially existential concerns beyond standard operational parameters. The message continued with technical details and security protocols, but Maelstrom had already begun mental preparations for the meeting. The Gorosei's involvement, the 5 elders who ruled the world government from the shadows, elevated his research from merely significant to potentially world-altering. If the Fox Sage truly represented what Maelstrom suspected, a being whose very existence challenged fundamental assumptions about their reality, then capturing him had implications far beyond scientific advancement. It might determine the very future of power structures that had endured for 800 years. Not just a perfect soldier, Maelstrom amended his earlier assessment, ambition crystallizing into resolve. The perfect weapon. Aboard the Tempest Runner, in the small cabin allocated to their expanded group, Naruto sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed in meditation. 3 days had passed since their departure from Taipan, and the vessel maintained a cautious course through less traveled sea routes, avoiding major shipping lanes where marine presence might be stronger. Within his shared mindscape, Naruto conferred with Kurama, both studying the integrated energies of the 3 devil fruits they had consumed. What had once been foreign influences had steadily harmonized with their chakra network, creating a hybrid energy system unlike anything in either world. The integration continues to stabilize, Kurama observed, observing golden threads that represented devil fruit energy woven through his own crimson chakra. Each fruit seems to recognize the others as complementary rather than competitive. Robin's theory about dimensional travelers makes sense, Naruto replied, watching the energy patterns shift and flow. Our chakra network provides architecture that doesn't exist in this world's inhabitants, separate channels for each fruit power to occupy without rejection. Yet there are limits, the fox cautioned. I can feel strain points developing, junctions where the energies interact most intensely. 3 fruits might be sustainable indefinitely, but additional integration would increase exponential stress. This confirmed Naruto's own physical experiences. While each fruit had ultimately been successfully absorbed, the process had grown progressively more difficult, requiring longer recovery periods and more conscious management of the resulting abilities. How many could we theoretically handle, he asked, though part of him already knew the answer would be insufficient for his deepest hopes. Impossible to predict with certainty, Kurama admitted. But based on current integration patterns and stress indicators, perhaps 6 total before reaching critical threshold. 6, Naruto echoed, considering the implications. Enough to become a formidable force in this world, but possibly not enough to generate the power necessary for interdimensional travel. Robin's research, shared cautiously over the past days, suggested historical dimensional travelers had required extraordinary power concentrations to return to their original realities, power equivalent to ancient weapons or multiple awakened devil fruits working in concert. We don't know that for certain, Kurama reminded him. Quality may matter more than quantity. The right combination of 6 mythical Zoans, fully awakened and harmonized, might generate sufficient dimensional resonance. Their contemplation was interrupted by a gentle knock at the cabin door. Naruto opened his eyes, returning to full physical awareness as he called, "Enter." Nami stepped inside, carrying a tray with food and tea. Behind her came Robin, arms laden with books and charts she had been studying in the captain's library. The women had developed an unexpected rapport, Nami's practical knowledge of current sea conditions complementing Robin's historical understanding of cartography evolution. "You've been meditating for hours," Nami observed, setting the tray beside him. "Any insights?" "Some," Naruto acknowledged, accepting the offered tea gratefully. "Kurama believes we might be able to integrate up to 6 devil fruits before reaching critical threshold." Robin's eyes sharpened with scholarly interest. "The tailed beast entity you described? It continues to facilitate your fruit integration?" Naruto nodded. In the days since her rescue, he had shared significant details about his origins, the ninja world, chakra systems, and his status as Kurama's Jinchuriki. Robin had absorbed this information with remarkable equanimity, treating it as valuable academic data rather than fantastical claims. Kurama's chakra provides a framework that allows separate fruit energies to coexist, he explained. But the strain increases with each addition. 6 appears to be the theoretical maximum before rejection becomes inevitable. "Fascinating," Robin murmured, setting aside her materials to join them on the cabin floor. This aligns with certain poneglyph references to sixfold harmony, in relation to dimensional boundaries. The ancient scholars believed this number held significance in the fundamental structure of reality. Did they mention specific powers needed for dimensional crossing? Nami asked, settling beside them to form a small circle around the food tray. Robin's expression grew more measured. There are references to sympathetic resonance, the idea that powers mirroring those in the traveler's original dimension create natural bridges between worlds. In your case, that might suggest seeking fruits with abilities similar to those in your ninja world. Like the fox fruit, Naruto nodded, understanding. It resonated with Kurama's energy instantly, creating stronger integration than either the Thunderbird or Dragon aspects. Exactly, Robin confirmed. The poneglyphs suggest dimensional travelers who successfully returned home did so by collecting powers that created harmonic convergence with their origin world's natural energies. This presented both hope and a formidable challenge. Mythical Zoan fruits were among the rarest in existence, and finding one specifically resonant with Naruto's world would require extraordinary luck or resources far beyond their current means. "There's something else to consider," Nami interjected, her practical nature asserting itself. "Even if we identified the perfect combination of fruits, acquiring them would mean confronting the world's most powerful organizations. The Marines, the Emperors, the Syndicate, all aggressively collect rare fruits. Not to mention the moral implications," Naruto added quietly. "Every fruit I take is one someone else might need or deserve. The people we freed from Taipan, they had their fruits forcibly extracted for research. How am I different if I hunt fruits just for my own purposes? This ethical dimension had increasingly troubled him as their journey continued. His ninja code emphasized protection of the innocent and judicious use of power, principles potentially compromised by aggressive fruit acquisition for personal gain, even if that gain was returning home. There's a difference between your situation and Vasquez's experiments, Robin observed. You're not extracting fruits from unwilling users or forcing awakening through torture. You're consuming naturally occurring fruits that would otherwise be exploited by organizations with far less benevolent intentions. Perhaps, Naruto conceded, though not entirely convinced. But it still feels self-serving when compared to my original purpose as a shinobi. An uncomfortable silence settled over the group, broken eventually by Nami's pragmatic assessment. We need to establish priorities, she said. My village still needs liberation from Arlong. You need specific fruits to potentially return home. Robin needs protection from both the world government and the syndicate. All while marine and criminal organizations actively hunt us. When you put it that way, our situation sounds rather dire, Robin remarked with dark humor. I prefer to think of it as complicated, Nami replied with a determined smile. But not impossible. We have advantages, Naruto's growing powers, my navigational knowledge, your historical expertise. Together, we might accomplish what none of us could manage alone. Naruto felt a surge of appreciation for her optimism, a quality he'd always valued in his own world and found refreshingly familiar in this one. Nami had evolved from the cautious, self-protective thief he'd first encountered into someone willing to face seemingly insurmountable odds for causes beyond her immediate self-interest. You're right, he agreed, straightening with renewed purpose. We tackle these challenges one at a time, supporting each other's goals along the way. A mutual aid compact, Robin mused, seeming both surprised and intrigued by the concept. Unusual in these seas, where alliances typically last only until betrayal becomes profitable. We're not typical pirates, Naruto grinned, his fox-sharp canines catching the cabin's lantern light. Clearly not, Robin acknowledged with the hint of a genuine smile, a rare expression from the normally guarded scholar. Though I maintain you qualify as pirates by definition, regardless of your protests to the contrary. Their discussion shifted to more immediate concerns, the Tempest runner's course, supplies needed at their next port, and intelligence about marine movements in the region. Captain Faulkner had agreed to transport them as far as Alabasta, where they would need to secure alternate passage depending on their next destination. As evening deepened into night, Robin excused herself to continue research in her own cabin, leaving Naruto and Nami alone. A comfortable silence settled between them, born of shared experiences and growing trust that neither had anticipated when their partnership began. You're worried about more than just the moral implications of collecting fruits, Nami observed perceptively, gathering the remnants of their meal. Something else is bothering you. Naruto smiled faintly at her insight. She had become increasingly attuned to his moods, just as he had to hers, a mutual understanding developing without conscious effort. I'm starting to care about this world, he admitted, voicing the concern that had been growing since Taipan. About its people, its problems, its future. The longer I stay, the more connections I form, the harder it becomes to focus solely on returning home. Is that so terrible? She asked gently. To find meaning in more than one place. It feels like betrayal, he replied, gaze dropping to his hands that now contained power from multiple dimensions. Everyone in Konoha who depended on me, who believed in me, what happens to them if I never find a way back? Or worse, if I stop trying because I've found new purpose here. Nami settled beside him on the cabin floor, close enough for comfort without demanding more. From everything you've told me about your friends, they sound like people who would want you to live fully, wherever you are. Finding meaning here doesn't diminish what you left behind. Her words resonated with wisdom beyond her years, wisdom earned through her own experiences of loss and adaptation. Naruto found himself leaning slightly against her shoulder, drawing strength from her steady presence. When did you get so insightful? He asked with gentle teasing. "I've always been insightful," she replied, nudging him playfully. "You just didn't appreciate my brilliance when we first met because you were too busy showing off your fancy ninja moves." They laughed together, the tension easing as it always seemed to when they allowed themselves these moments of unguarded connection. Something had been building between them since Town, a deepening bond that transcended their initial partnership of convenience but remained largely unacknowledged by either. "We should get some rest," Nami suggested eventually, rising to her feet. "Captain Faulkner says we'll reach the Alabasta shipping lanes tomorrow. Could be marine patrols to navigate." Naruto nodded, though neither moved immediately toward their respective sleeping areas. Instead, they stood in comfortable proximity, something unspoken passing between them in the lantern's gentle glow. "Nami," he began, uncertain how to articulate the growing feelings that complicated his already complex situation. She silenced him with a finger to his lips, her expression conveying understanding of his unvoiced conflict. "One challenge at a time, remember. We don't need to figure everything out tonight." With that wisdom, she reached up to adjust his perpetually unruly hair, a casual gesture of affection that somehow communicated more than grand declarations might have. Then she retreated to her bunk, leaving Naruto to contemplate the growing number of ties binding him to this world he'd never intended to enter. Sleep came eventually, though his dreams were troubled by images of Konoha juxtaposed with Grand Line seascapes, worlds separate yet increasingly connected through his existence in both. Kurama's consciousness provided a stabilizing presence, reminding him that wherever their journey led, neither of them faced it alone. Morning arrived with the lookout's cry of "sails on the horizon," jerking both Naruto and Nami instantly awake. They rushed to the deck, where Captain Faulkner already observed the approaching vessel through his spyglass. "Marine science frigate," he reported grimly. "Flying Vice Admiral colors. They've spotted us and adjusted course to intercept." Naruto's enhanced vision confirmed the assessment. The approaching ship bore distinctive markings of Marine Science Division, with a flag indicating senior command presence. "Maelstrom," he concluded. "He's found us somehow." "Impossible," Nami protested. "We've been careful, no transponder communications, irregular course changes, only docking at unmonitored harbors." Robin joined them, her expression grave as she assessed the situation. The syndicate's research at Taipan included tracking methodologies specifically calibrated to your energy signature. If Maelstrom acquired that data after our escape, he could follow the residual energy trail even without direct visual contact, Naruto finished, understanding immediately. His fruit abilities left traces in the environment, subtle but distinctive to properly calibrated sensors. Captain Faulkner lowered his spyglass, expression hardening. "I can't outrun a marine frigate, and my crew can't withstand questioning by a vice admiral. No offense, but I think our arrangement has reached its conclusion." Naruto couldn't blame him for the decision. The captain had already taken considerable risk transporting known fugitives. "We understand," he assured Faulkner. "We'll leave before they're in hailing distance. You can truthfully say we forced passage and disembarked without your consent." The captain nodded gratefully. "There's a merchant skiff in the cargo hold, small but seaworthy. It's yours if you can be gone within the hour." "We'll be gone in 20 minutes, Nami promised, already calculating supplies and navigational requirements. The preparations proceeded with practiced efficiency, essential supplies transferred to the skiff, navigation charts secured, weapons and personal belongings stowed for rapid deployment. Robin assisted quietly, her experience as a lifelong fugitive evident in her methodical approach to emergency relocation. As the Marines drew steadily closer, now visible without magnification on the horizon, Naruto made a final sweep of their cabin, ensuring nothing incriminating remained to implicate Captain Faulkner or his crew. His search revealed an unexpected item beneath Robin's discarded research materials, a rolled parchment marked with symbols he didn't recognize but which emanated a subtle energy his fox senses detected immediately. "What's this?" he asked when Robin entered to collect her final belongings. She hesitated, uncharacteristic uncertainty crossing her features. A rubbing from a poneglyph fragment I accessed in the Taipan facility before my capture. I appropriated it during our escape. A poneglyph? Naruto repeated, recalling the significance of these ancient stone texts. What does it say? It's incomplete, she admitted. But what remains appears to describe a mythical Zoan fruit with properties aligned to dimensional boundaries, specifically, a fruit granting aspects of a world-spanning serpent that exists simultaneously in multiple realities. Naruto's interest sharpened instantly. Where is this fruit supposed to be? According to the fragment, it was last recorded in the possession of a temple complex on an island called Serpent's Crown, in what is now the Calm Belt south of Alabasta. Robin's expression grew troubled. However, the text is over 800 years old. The likelihood of the fruit remaining in that location is better than having no lead at all, Naruto finished, carefully returning the parchment to her. Why didn't you mention this earlier? Robin's composure returned, her scholarly detachment reasserting itself. Because pursuing it would mean deliberately sailing into the Calm Belt, a region without winds, infested with sea kings, and regularly patrolled by marine vessels. The risk-to-reward calculation seemed unfavorable given our current circumstances. She wasn't wrong. The Calm Belt's reputation for devouring ships and crews was legendary, a natural barrier that helped maintain the Grand Line's isolation from the Four Blues. Without wind for sailing and with massive sea monsters lurking beneath seemingly placid waters, conventional navigation was virtually impossible. Yet if the parchment's information was accurate, this fruit might represent exactly the type of resonant power Robin had described, a mythical Zoan specifically connected to dimensional boundaries. We should discuss this with Nami, Naruto decided, tucking the information away for the moment. After we've dealt with our more immediate marine problem. They completed preparations and joined Nami at the cargo hold, where the promised merchant skiff waited, a 20-foot vessel with simple rigging and minimal accommodations, but sturdy enough for experienced sailors to navigate challenging waters. Captain Faulkner oversaw final loading, his gruff exterior softening slightly as he provided last-minute advice on currents and weather patterns. Despite his initial reservations about transporting them, a grudging respect had developed during their voyage. Alabasta's coast is 3 days southeast with favorable winds, he informed them, handing Nami a sealed navigation packet. These charts show unmarked coves where you can make landfall without passing customs or marine checkpoints. Thank you, she replied, accepting the materials with genuine appreciation. For everything. Just doing business, he muttered, though his expression suggested more complicated sentiments. Though I'll admit, you've made the voyage more interesting than my usual cargo runs. A diplomatic description of the chaos we've brought to your ship, Robin observed with dry humor. Faulkner's weathered face cracked in a brief smile. The sea breeds strange tales, and stranger companions to share them with. He glanced toward the approaching marine vessel, now close enough that individual figures could be distinguished on its deck. Time for you to write the next chapter elsewhere. With final farewells exchanged, they boarded the skiff and were lowered into open water through the cargo hold sea doors, a discreet departure that would be less visible to distant observers than leaving from the main deck. Once waterborne, Nami took immediate command, directing sail deployment to catch crosswinds that would carry them perpendicular to both the Tempest Runner and the approaching marine frigate. Robin assisted with practiced competence, while Naruto enhanced their speed by subtly manipulating air currents around the sail, not enough to create visible evidence of devil fruit usage, but sufficient to accelerate their departure. They've spotted us, Robin reported calmly, observing the marine vessel through a small spyglass. They're altering course to pursue rather than continuing toward the Tempest Runner. As expected, Naruto replied, increasing his wind manipulation slightly. Maelstrom wants me, not Captain Faulkner. They're launching smaller pursuit craft, Robin continued. Fast cutters with separate propulsion. They'll overtake us before we reach any significant landmass. Nami studied their position on the hastily unfurled chart, expression calculating. We need a distraction big enough to discourage pursuit without endangering the Tempest Runner or revealing the full extent of Naruto's abilities. An idea formed in Naruto's mind, risky, but potentially effective. The Bakunawa aspect, he suggested. The moon-eating dragon's gravity manipulation could create a localized disturbance in the water, enough to slow pursuit without generating the massive energy signature of the Thunderbird form. A controlled disruption, Robin nodded, understanding immediately. Subtle enough to appear natural to distant observers, but sufficient to impede marine vessels. Nami considered this, weighing navigational implications against tactical advantages. Do it, she finally decided. But maintain minimum effective force. We don't need a tidal wave, just enough disturbance to create separation. Naruto nodded, accessing the dragon fruit's energy, the most recently integrated and consequently the most difficult to control with precision. Black scales materialized along his forearms as he extended his consciousness into the surrounding water, feeling the interplay of mass, motion, and gravitational forces. With careful focus, he altered gravitational constants in a specific pattern, not enough to create visible distortion above the waterline, but sufficient to generate powerful underwater currents flowing counter to the marine pursuit vessels. The effect would appear as an unexpected but natural phenomenon to observers, a localized current anomaly rather than an obvious devil fruit manifestation. It's working, Robin confirmed, monitoring the marine response through her spyglass. The pursuit craft are struggling against the current shift. They're signaling the main vessel for instructions. Naruto maintained the gravitational disturbance, careful not to expand it toward the Tempest Runner's position. The strain of such precise control taxed his still developing mastery of the Bakunawa's power, but Kurama's supportive energy helped stabilize the manipulation. We need to use this opportunity to disappear completely, Nami decided, studying their navigational options. Once they lose visual contact, Maelstrom's sensors will still track Naruto's energy signature unless we can mask it somehow. Or provide multiple signatures to confuse tracking systems, Robin suggested thoughtfully. During my research on devil fruit properties, I encountered references to natural phenomena that generate energy patterns similar to fruit abilities, underwater volcanic vents, certain mineral formations, even some marine life forms. The Alabasta coast has several active thermal zones, Nami recalled, tracing a route on her chart. If we can reach them before Maelstrom recalibrates his tracking systems, we could disappear among naturally occurring energy signatures, Naruto concluded, seeing the strategy's potential. Buying time to consider our next move. Including, perhaps, the unexpected possibility Robin's poneglyph fragment had revealed, a mythical Zoan fruit specifically connected to dimensional boundaries, hidden somewhere in the dangerous calm belt. As the marine pursuit fell gradually behind, obstructed by the carefully maintained current anomaly, their small vessel slipped away toward the distant Alabasta coastline. The temporary victory offered a moment to breathe, but all three fugitives understood their respite would be brief. Maelstrom's resources, determination, and scientific methodology made him a uniquely dangerous opponent, one who would adapt to each evasion technique with increasing precision. And beyond him loomed larger threats, the Syndicate's ongoing interest in dimensional travelers, the world government's obsession with controlling all forms of power, and the mysterious forces that had brought Naruto to this world in the first place. We should tell you about Robin's discovery, Naruto said to Nami once their immediate escape seemed assured. It might change our plans significantly. As Robin produced the poneglyph rubbing and explained its contents, Nami's expression shifted from skepticism to calculated consideration. Her navigational expertise allowed her to immediately grasp the challenges of a calm belt expedition, but also the potential strategic advantage of acquiring a fruit so specifically aligned with dimensional boundaries. The serpent that spans worlds, she murmured, examining the ancient symbols though she couldn't read them directly. If this fruit truly exists and matches the description, it could be the key to controlling dimensional transit rather than just attempting it, Robin confirmed. At least according to the fragmentary text. Naruto felt conflicting emotions at this possibility, hope that a path home might be clearer than previously thought, anxiety about the dangers involved in obtaining it, and lingering ethical concerns about collecting fruits for personal benefit. The calm belt is virtually impassable by conventional means, Nami pointed out, practical as always. Without wind for sailing, we'd be sitting targets for both Sea Kings and Marine patrols. My wind abilities could provide propulsion, Naruto suggested. Continuously for days. Nami raised a skeptical eyebrow. While remaining alert for sea monsters capable of swallowing our entire vessel in one bite. Even your stamina has limits. She wasn't wrong. The calm belt represented one of the most dangerous environments in this world, a challenge that would test even his enhanced capabilities. There might be an alternative approach, Robin interjected thoughtfully. The rubbing mentions a temple complex on Serpent's Crown Island. If this temple still exists after 8 centuries, it likely contains additional information about the fruit, perhaps even clues to alternate methods of acquiring it. You're suggesting research before commitment, Naruto observed. Find out more about this fruit before risking the calm belt crossing. Robin nodded. Alabastus Royal Library contains one of the world's most comprehensive historical collections outside O'Hara's Lost Archives. If information about Serpent's Crown exists anywhere accessible to us, it would be there. The proposal made strategic sense: gather intelligence before committing to a potentially suicidal expedition. Yet Naruto couldn't help feeling that time was growing increasingly precious. Each day in this world strengthened his connections here while potentially weakening his ties to home. Alabasta first, then, he agreed, though not without reservation. We researched this serpent fruit thoroughly before making any decisions. As their vessel continued southeast, driven by both natural winds and Naruto's subtle enhancement, the 3 unlikely allies fell into contemplative silence. Each carried personal objectives that had somehow aligned into shared purpose: Nami's quest to free her village, Robin's pursuit of forbidden history, Naruto's search for understanding and possible return. The path ahead remained obscured by danger and uncertainty, but no longer did any of them face it alone. In a world defined by treachery and self-interest, they had found in each other something increasingly rare: genuine trust built on mutual respect rather than convenience or necessity. Behind them, barely visible on the horizon, Vice Admiral Maelstrom's vessel adjusted course to compensate for their evasive maneuvers. The pursuit continued, methodical and implacable, driven by scientific obsession and institutional authority. Within his private laboratory aboard the marine frigate, Maelstrom reviewed data from the brief energy fluctuation his sensors had detected, the Dragon Aspect's gravity manipulation. Fascinating, he murmured to his silent equipment. A third mythical Zoan, fully integrated and precisely controlled. The specimen exceeds all projected parameters. Beside him, a secure transponder snail activated, connecting him to a research facility far from conventional marine jurisdiction. Vegapunk Laboratory, came the response, a voice whose brilliance had defined an era of scientific advancement. Doctor, Maelstrom acknowledged with rare deference. I'm transmitting new data on our dimensional anomaly subject. The integration capabilities continue to expand beyond theoretical limits. A pause as the legendary scientist reviewed the incoming information. Most interesting, Dr. Vegapunk finally replied. Your hypothesis regarding multidimensional chakra networks appears increasingly viable. Continue pursuit but prioritize observation over capture until appropriate containment protocols can be established. And those protocols? Under development, came the measured response. The subject's demonstrated abilities require containment technology beyond standard parameters. I've begun adapting certain aspects of ancient weapon research to the task. The implications of this statement, that technology derived from weapons capable of destroying entire islands would be necessary to contain Naruto, was not lost on Maelstrom. Estimated completion, he inquired, maintaining professional detachment despite his scientific excitement. 2 months, assuming current progress continues without interruption. The Mariehua facility has been dedicated exclusively to this project under direct Gorosei authorization. Understood. I'll maintain surveillance distance while continuing to gather behavioral and physiological data. The connection terminated, leaving Maelstrom to his thoughts and calculations. 2 months of observation before attempting capture, a frustrating delay for his scientific curiosity, but necessary given the escalating capabilities his target demonstrated. A game of patience, then, he mused aloud, turning to the navigation systems. Let us see what other surprises you reveal while we wait, Fox Sage. He plotted an intercept course toward Alabasta, confident in his tracking technology's ability to maintain contact even through evasive maneuvers. The dimensional traveler might temporarily disappear among thermal vents or mineral formations, but his unique energy signature would inevitably resurface. And when it did, Marine Science Division would be waiting, armed with the combined genius of both Maelstrom and Vegapunk, a formidable alliance formed specifically to understand, contain, and ultimately harness the power of worlds beyond their own. Chapter 3, Crown of Storms. The crew infiltrates the Ancestral Council's hidden island base. Moral dilemmas arise as Naruto confronts the possibility that he doesn't belong in this world. Deepening romantic tension as Nami and Robin both support Naruto through his crisis of identity. Naruto discovers the truth about his arrival. He was summoned as a weapon by the Ancestral Council. Amatsu is revealed as the mastermind, with connections to both worlds and ancient weapons. The final devil fruit is secured after an intense battle with council guards. Naruto consumes the sixth fruit but struggles to control the overwhelming power. Climactic battle against Amatsu, who reveals himself as a being from the Void Century with godlike powers. Naruto's friends and developing relationships help him master his abilities. The crew discovers the location of the One Piece through Robin's archaeological knowledge. Final confrontation at Laugh Tale, where Naruto must choose between returning home or staying in this new world. Naruto chooses to stay, declaring himself the Pirate King not for power but to create a world of freedom. Epilogue shows Naruto, Nami, and Robin sailing toward new adventures, with the world government now treating him as the most dangerous man alive. Themes and subplots, identity and adaptation, Naruto struggling to maintain his ninja way in a pirate's world. Power and responsibility, the temptation and burden of accumulating devil fruit abilities. Found family, building new bonds, while honoring the memory of those left behind. Two worlds, the mysterious connection between Naruto's ninja world and the Grand Line legacy, what it truly means to be the king of pirates in a world of corruption and power. Romance, the authentic development of feelings between characters through shared experiences and mutual respect. Key action set pieces, Naruto vs Marine Captain Steel, showing basic ninja abilities. Battle against Captain Blackthorn's Shadow Pirates, first devil fruit. Powers, escape from Admiral Fujikawa's gravity fields, combined devil fruit and chakra techniques, infiltration of the Ancestral Council fortress, stealth and strategy, the godlike battle against Amatsu at Laugh Tale, full power showcase, character growth arcs, Naruto, from lost stranger to purposeful leader. Nami, from using Naruto for protection to genuine partnership and love. Robin, from secretive ally to open, trusting companion. Kurama, from reluctant passenger to invested partner in Naruto's new life. This detailed outline provides the foundation for a rich crossover story that honors both properties while creating something new. Each chapter will feature different types of conflicts, progressively stronger antagonists, and natural character development. SEA of Chakra, Naruto's Pirate Legend, Story Outline. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.